bien, selección de nuevo a total, gran participación por parte del combinador del Schalke de 0-4 y ahora la presión que es absoluta.
Cuidado, inicia el equipo del Schalke, intentaban divear, pero es que han fallado absolutamente todo, Cabra. Aún así la torreta que va a caer, no puede el equipo de Segal limpiar aquí a los Super para meter una oleada. El compañero está intentando encargar de derribar el inhibidor de la calle central. El equipo de Segal sigue esperando atrás, no pueden hacer nada. Cuidado ahora, era bastante problema.
Buena jaula ahí de Ignar parando la posible iniciación de Dreams, que tenía que intentar algún tipo de gancho en esa situación.
Landed on a minion instead. SK still unable to find these picks. We wanted to see them catch out Schalke, but the Black Shield, the Spell Shield, the dodges away from Schalke have been too much for SK today.
I mean, again, I think they needed to play towards their side lanes much earlier in the game. They needed to better utilize the big advantage that Sucker had built up in the top lane. They were unable to do. If gold lead, they have to make some huge mistakes in order for SK to be able to come. This is only going to make the playoff race that much harder for SK. They were the surprises last split. They were the team that were able to sneak their way into the playoff spots by getting the huge upset tiebreaker win over Schalke. I suppose you could debate if it was an upset considering Schalke were 2-7 in the second half of last split. You can see the evolution that Schalke has made as a team with the introduction of Trick versus the decline of the young rookies that came in last split. They kind of took the league by storm and allowed Selfmade to earn Rookie of the Split.
Schalke, you have to look at them now and wonder, are they our fourth place team? Are you looking Fnatic G2 splicing and on a killing streak. 307 on the Sejuani. All it takes now is Schalke just waiting. Before that run, it's very difficult for SK to do anything about it. Now the second Nexus Tower is on the menu. Sucker trying to do his power to Ignite.
Good stuff from the side of Schalke. I feel like they punished the big mistakes that SK made. They were able to find a lot of good team fights around the lane where very clean stuff from the side of Schalke. Definitely a top another 3 weeks, so the second half of the split wins. Because it felt like in the early game, his jungler should have tried to help him a lot more, and how the laning plays played out. Because we talked a lot about how against a range matchup, they're going to constantly bounce the waves to put them in awkward situations. And we saw Odoame twice. It looks like he's overextending, but what's he supposed to do? Just like give up farm and experience? But in those situations, he kind of wants his jungler there to support him, and he kind of just felt like he was left up to try. And he did a great job considering the situation that he was put.
Will we actually get to hear directly from Odoame's mouth? Did Trick leave him alone, or did he help him out enough? Odoame, Vor?
Thank you guys. Okay, you already done really well.
Yeah, Odoame just... the guy on the left, the skinny guy. Yeah, the skinny guy.
This one.
Yeah.
That's fine, that's fine. Do you think you received enough attention from Trick?
No. I think we did kind of an okay job. I kind of got covered when I needed some help, you know, and I kind of died when I didn't get it. But I think it was okay. I kind of got the help I needed in those 5 points.
Taking a step back here and thinking about the draft, you blind to this gold here for me. So give me the reasoning behind this.
Well, we just had a strong on this match with the good change, and it doesn't really have a lot of matchups because when you're playing against red, even if you feel like you can punish him, there's always the threat that if the jungle is there, you will just die, you know? So that's why this matchup is kind of like unplayable. It was kind of okay. It wasn't really too bad. He didn't really get to take plates or get a really big CS lead. So there's always this like especially with mostly because like it's a really bad matchup, but we have C20, so almost if you play a little bit, you get a bad advantage for it. And I think for what we want to do with my role and with game and how we want to pressure the map, I think it's a good pick because once I get silent prior and I can get a roam to mid, then I get a really, really strong ult. And even though I was kind of useless this game, every time I got my ults off, it put really a lot of pressure on with him, and we got a lot of like team fight wins.
You say useless, but I don't agree on that. So what do you think when you have to play without so much resources and a lot of pressure? Because that's one... Okay, they're loud, but anyway, yeah.
Scary. I mean, obviously it kind of sucks, you know, but the thing is, if I start complaining that I want more resources and stuff, someone else on my team will get less. And for the way we play right now, it kind of seems to be working well. Me getting just like resources when it's really, when my lane is in a really difficult spot and when they can like dive or stuff like that, I think it's okay. And I think just snowballing through bot lane is a lot more easy. So obviously, you know, I'd like to play through top side, get some dives going on, invade some jungle camps, get some KDA and stuff. But for us, this is kind of like our identity, and I'm kind of comfortable playing like this because I played like this back in H2K for like 2 or 3 years. So it's not really that hard. We just need to find picks in the meta and a playstyle that kind of like works for helping our top when top is in a really difficult situation.
And playing Splice tomorrow will give you a big challenge, I hope. So what do you think about this match?
I mean, last time it was close, but this time they won't really be that fun for them. Play is coming.
Okay, play is coming. We'll see about this. Thank you, Odoame. And for more on the game, let's send it over to the analysts.
Thank you, Law. Yes, we did just think Odoame had a lot to say, actually, and I think there was a lot of going through that top lane matchup with the Kled and Kennen, but, I mean, we have to take some time to moving your screen in a second. Let's first of all talk about the compositions. What were they designed to do? What were their win conditions?
Well, I mean, if we look on the side of Schalke, they're the victors, right? And they have very clear ideas, you know? They have very strong 5 versus 5. You have the speed up from the Sivir as well as the Kled trying to initiate these team fights, and then just, like, solid DPS across the board. It's very clear what this side of the draft is trying to do. Whereas I think SK got a little bit all over the place. You know, they had strong solo laners. Like, you know, if they wanted to split up into 1v1, the on-hit Kennen as well as the Corki were going to be strong. But I didn't ever feel like they had the ability to like push the game state forward. They didn't have those.
Now, I'd love to give it a conversation with SK and kind of figure out around the Skarner pick. It felt like as soon as Skarner was locked in, not that Skarner is a bad pick at all, and maybe it's just a denial. I mean, that's one of the picks that Trick has really been running rampant on, but it kind of opened up so many different things. If Skarner doesn't have flash, then your playmaking options are fairly limited on this type of composition because it's an on-hit Kennen. You know, it's not the same AP like Smeb Kennen flying in. Otherwise, then your only CC is a death sentence from Thresh, and then it opens up the Sivir because since you didn't take Jarvan, Sivir becomes a free champion, and it's kind of like where does self-made attack as Skarner on this map?
Yeah, and I feel like the Sivir is actually a huge issue for this team because when I see Thresh plus Skarner and then strong side laners, I'm like, okay, you're trying to play the map, and the way you get picks is by catching the enemy team out on rotation, right? Inside of their jungle. You need to be able to hit them in those parts of the map. But then when there's a Sivir on the enemy team, that means that Schalke is always going to have mid lane priority. That means you can never be the ones running around through the river and trying to get into the enemy jungle. You're always playing from the back foot, which just stops your ability to do anything.
Which it felt like there was a point in this game where SK's composition that they were kind of just playing from the back foot. There was not a lot of options that they had. Again, anytime that Selfmade lost his flash, there was that big chase in the bottom jungle where he had to burn the flash from Morgana, and then they immediately rock into a Baron play, and it's like, well, you know, Skarner doesn't have his flash, there's nothing SK can do here, they have no teeth.
From watching the game, there was a bit of a shaky early game from Schalke, but we get to mid-game, it looked they were completely in control, and to be honest, it felt like Schalke did what Schalke does best, that pure team fight brilliance.
Yeah, and it's so easy for them to find these fights. You know, Dwamne on that flank after the initial engage comes in for this team, and SK, you can see very clearly, they struggle in these front-to-back team fights because, you know, Thresh and Skarner, they're not the best of frontliners. They can't really stand their ground in the face of the enemy, so it becomes a very difficult job when you don't have the DPS frontline, and you have 3 auto-attack-based DPSers.
And I do kind of want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of Schalke, because there's this magnifying glass over them. Are they actually the 4th best team in the LEC, or is it going to be a team like Origin? And something that Schalke do very well is their team fighting, because I think they're a really good kind of shoot-from-the-hip, reactionary-based team. Their ability to problem-solve, figure things out works well, and they have slight pre-planning, especially when it's around an individual decision like Ignore or Trick. It feels like they're thinking maybe, you know, a jungle rotation out 1-2 minutes in advance, but they tend to prioritize small gains over large gains. And I don't mean that in terms of like, why wouldn't every team go for large gains, but it's like individuals, like an individual back timer or an individual catching farm waves rather than trying to pressure something like a Baron or a Dragon.
Right, and the idea being that they don't want to take high-risk plays, and that's why what they end up going for is usually like the smaller moves that Frost is talking about.
Well, let's take a look at our key player of the game. Well, it's none other than Trick. 49% of the vote, the superstar jungler of Schalke, the X-factor for their performance in this summer.
Yeah, and in this match too, it was very early attention over on the mid lane to help the Azir get to a good position so Abadagi could be a carry in these team fights. And then, I mean, him and Odo are the ones leading the charge in these fights. 2 fights was all they needed to win. He gets MVP.
Trick obviously had a brilliant performance as did Schalke. Coming up next, Rogue continue their road to playoffs as the dark horse of the LEC go up against the UK underdogs, Excel Esports.
And Excel are going to...
I think he's going to go down AD, but Abadagi is going to shuffle in here as Trick tries to catch up to Tyrion.
We've had a bit of an extended laning phase between Schalke and SK. Crash right now, face checks.
Straight into the Prism, frozen in place, going to try and get to the lantern, has to flash away, but upset flashes for the chase. He's got the charge as well, straight onto the backline. Crown's shot is caught out between 3 members of Schalke. He jumps back though, able to survive for the moment. The Impale coming out as well, and Crown's still alive. In the end, he goes down. Schalke decimate SK. There's nothing they can do, and Schalke continue their winning ways here in week 6. The race for playoff continues as Rogue prepare for a must-win match against Excel Esports. A tough road ahead for both teams. Rogue currently sitting on the cusp of a playoff position. Excel right at the bottom of the team.
Yes, it is definitely a lot tougher for Excel than it is for Rogue. Right now, I believe Rogue are tied with Vitality at 4 and 6. Both of them share that 6th place spot. So I don't think it's too bad, but it's one of those things where you're now directly competing with the likes of Vitality, right? And so you want to make sure that you don't drop any games, especially to the likes of XL. And while XL have showcased a lot of good things, losing to them is definitely going to hurt you in the overall standings. And remember that the weight of the second half, if you win, and then you're in a tiebreaker situation, the second half wins mean a lot more than the first half. So Rogue do not want to find themselves in a 1-1 against XL moving into the second half of the split. So let's jump into the draft.
Let's jump straight into it. Rogue on the blue side, XL on the red, and Zaya and unsurprisingly Inspired's Olaf being banned out here early on.
But I also just think Olaf is like a really strong champion right now, my friend. He feels that he's able to do pretty much everything. He's like one of the strongest early game junglers. He has one of the fastest clear speeds. He's like crazy strong, but Inspired is especially good on him. What I don't want to see from Inspired this game is the likes of things like Silence. I don't want to see him playing these like slow farming early game jungler, like passive junglers that scale later on. I think he needs to be on a high impact early game focus, like dueling, skirmishing, fast play kind of jungler. So we'll see if he decides to take that route, because that's when I think we see Inspired out of the
Usually when his Olaf is banned, he goes towards Skarner or Rek'Sai as his two next picks. Skarner can skirmish a little bit, but mostly wants to farm up towards that level 6. With Azir removed from the pool, Sejuani and Nico taken away, Yuumi is the final ban here for XL.
Carmen is immediately the one that raises in priority for me. She did receive, I believe, a couple more nerfs on 914. But even then, people consider her still very strong. Looks like they're going to go for the Sona bot lane, though. Will they go Sona Tahm Kench, is my question. Or will they go for the Sona Taric? Will they go back to the old matchup? Maybe they found something new. Sona Jarvan, we saw over in the LCS a few weeks ago, coming out from Wooded down the bot lane.
They did end up winning that game, but I don't think it was off the back of the Sona Jarvan lane. Now, Corki picked up for Mickey straight away with the Azir ban, makes a lot of sense, and Tahm Kench taken away by XL.
So, we're still seeing Tahm Kench in pro play. A lot of effort has gone into nerfing this champion, but pro players like, you know what? Fucking gobble someone up and spin him back out. Still a good champion. And as far as I'm aware, Tahm Kench can still do that, so he's still going to be played in the meta. Corki going to be locked in as well. My question is, what does Rogue have prepared for the Corki? Because with the Azir taken off the board, you would have to imagine that they have something primed and ready to answer it that is not one of the conventional mid lane matchups. I really hope that it's not Victor, and I do hope that we get to see something a little more exciting.
Ryze is still available for Rogue here as well if they want it. Strong pick. Can do a lot of work when you get towards those later games, can split push, but looks like instead they're going to go towards their jungler. Inspired will get the Jarvan, who can make some of those early aggressive plays.
All right, doesn't have the fastest clear speed, but can make a lot of early game plays happen. One of the issues that Inspired may find is that he's not going to gain a lot of priority in the 2 versus 2 bot lane. So you would imagine that he's going to look to path up towards the top side. So we'll keep track of that once we actually get into the game. We now want to see what kind of laners the Rogue go for, because when you're drafting scaling towards the bot side with the Sona Taric, you need some power elsewhere. So the problem is they're on blue side, remember? So they can't guarantee counterpick. They can get a good matchup mid, but they cannot guarantee it top. So they're going to have a safe blind, and I wonder if it is Kled. We heard from Odo Anme say that he actually thinks Kled doesn't really have any bad matchups in the current meta. He can actually soak up a lot of pressure, and even though it looks much worse than it normally is in that game, a large part of that was because of some of the mistakes and kind of the setups that we saw from him. So Kled could be something that we see rise in popularity here in Europe.
And the other option for Rogue is they take that Jarvan up towards the top lane and then pick a different jungler.
We've seen a lot of it from Prophet.
Yep. He has actually played it much more than Inspired, because Inspired hasn't played it yet this split. So Jarvan possibly going up towards the top for Prophet. The Silas probably going to Cadril in the jungle for XL. Cannon and Ezreal removed from the pool here by both our respective teams, and we'll see if Rogue want to keep narrowing down that AD carry pool, and if XL want to pick away some of those stronger top laners.
Now do remember that Silas did receive even more nerfs on this patch. His E now only gives him a magic shield. He doesn't get as much damage reduction on minions anymore, and Like, his ultimate got nerfed as well. Like, he received a lot of nerfs, and there was speculation around would he still be valuable in the current meta. Pro team saying yes, he can still be strong. Will it necessarily be in the jungle? We'll have to wait and see. You would expect that given that Corki's already locked in, that it won't be there. But we have seen some Corki tops floating around.
Also
so
seen some Corki 80 carry, I believe, this morning, either in the LPL or the LCK. Can't remember which one I was watching. Aatrox taken away. You said you still think he's strong, even though he was kind of adjusted on this patch. Yeah, I think adjusted or changed is probably the best way of putting it. Rogue will remove another 80 carry from the pool, and XL look towards their pick. I doubt it will be the Kog'Maw, but it's, you know, you're playing into a relatively safe lane. Maybe Kog'Maw Tahm Kench could be an option.
Well, I think Ashe would make more sense. There it is. I think that the Ashe Tahm Kench lane has always been very strong. The Tahm Kench provides a little bit more safety and survivability to the Ashe. I think it allows you to set up a lot of plays once you hit level 6 as well. The Ashe ultimate into the Tahm Kench ultimate is a great combination duo, so I quite like it a lot. We are seeing, wow, the Akali locked in for Larssen. Very exciting stuff. I believe that he did bring this out at EU Masters, and we got to see some cool stuff from them. Typically, we've been seeing a lot more control mages from this guy. He's not really known for his assassin play style, but he's going to be bringing it out today up against who you would imagine to be the Corki, and we'll see how well he does.
I just want to list out the champions he's played so far. The split: Azir, Corki, Syndra, Cassio, Nico, and Sylas. None of those really fit into the same playstyle as that Akali. Irelia was the final pick for. Expect he'll take that up towards the top lane, and will be facing into the Gnar from Prophet.
So, in terms of the compositions, we can see the Rogue have pretty solid team fighting later on into the game. Sona Taric always offer a lot of value once they've got like 3 items done, and they start grouping up with their team. When you have a Jarvan and a Gnar engage, you've got Mega Gnar, you've got obviously the Cataclysm from the Jarvan as well. There's a lot of AoE, there's a lot of crowd control, and then in all that chaos on the Akali, you can just be finding picks. You can look to play on a side lane as well, but I'm expecting Rogue to be looking much more to group up and fight later on into the game. Meanwhile, for XL, they have a little bit more pick potential, they have a little bit more side lane threat. Their team fighting is still fine, but one of the biggest issues that they have is that they don't actually have a lot of crowd control. They do have the Ashe Arrow, and they can potentially steal things like the Gnar ultimate and the Jarvan ultimate, but really, a lot of their focus is like single target. It's like poke damage, it's like chip damage, and so I feel like that in a similar vein to Game 1, XL will be looking to play much more towards their side lane. Try and get the Irelia ahead in the early game. Utilize the Ashe and Tahm Kench duo to find picks, catch people off guard, and then use that to generate pressure to like force your enemy back onto areas of the map, and ultimately avoid these big 5v5s unless you're in a healthy enough gold state that you can like win them regardless.
XL looking for pick Rogue, looking for later game team fights. We'll see if they can stick to the plan, or if something will upset the apple cart as we get on into game. I can promise you one thing, Betty, is we're definitely going to have a game of League of Legends. How it turns out, it's definitely up to these two teams.
Thank you, Medic. Thank you. I was confused at first. I thought, what game is this?
I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls recently, okay? I get confused. Where are my dailies? I need to craft a sip of stamina.
Only a few people are going to get that reference, and Ender's going to be one of them.
Which is the shame.
Which is the shame.
I do want to just mention a couple of the Akali changes before we really jump into the action. Twilight's Shroud no longer gives you obscurity, it now gives you invisibility, which means you're spotted out by True Sight. Probably won't see it happen too much this game, but also you can't extend the duration by jumping in and out of it. It's a set duration. It's a 1-point wonder for Larssen here. He'll be maxing Q and then going into...
Which was interesting, because I too was listening to Pup Smith this morning. I only managed to catch the final game. He was talking about how over in the LCK, they actually still love to max the W second. Personally, I just think that's wrong. One of the reasons that you max the W second was for the energy regeneration and the reduced cooldown on it. But now it's a flat cooldown. It gives you 80 energy back at rank 1, so there's no value in maxing it anymore. And E only gives you more damage. So typically, we should be expecting an E-max second. It still gives Akali a lot of damage, and if you're a good Akali player, you can definitely still make So, talked a little bit about Akali, but I wanted to talk about the jungle matchup. What we saw was that Inspired started on his red buff. He's immediately gone to blue. Remember that on a champion like Jarvan, on AoE camps, you're not the strongest, nor are you the fastest. So he's gone from buff to buff. He did get a bit of a pull, and this looks to be like a very fast clear speed. He's looking to what looks like a very early gank on the Jarvan. Has both buffs going for mid.
Let's have a look. EQ's in. Sweepers are out. Larson steps forward. They're waiting for Inspired to have those cooldowns back up.
How far is Larson away from level 3? Let me have a very quick look. He's still half a level away from it, but he does have the Shroud.
And he does.
There's a lot of time being spent from Inspired right now, and in all that time, Kedril just doing a full clear top. Here we go.
Flash away. Oh, Inspired misses it. I've been there before, my man. I've had that happen. It's hard to hit, Vedius.
It is hard to hit.
I do want to quickly clarify. On Twilight Shroud, the Shroud duration does go up with level. It's the cooldown that doesn't go down.
Yeah,
You still get a couple of extra seconds if you max it all the way to level 5.
Sure. But focusing on this, because the thing about this play was in the early levels, before level 6, Akali is going to struggle against range matchups. She always does, right? So one of the things that Inspired wanted to do here was to try and alleviate some of the pressure onto Larson, because he recognizes that Larson is going to be one of the biggest damage threats, right? Especially coming mid-game, right? So by looking for an early play, they force the flash out of Mickey, and now they set up for another kill, especially once he hits level 6, and maybe even earlier than that. The downside of making this play is, number one, it costs Inspired his flash, but number two, when you're playing a slower scaling jungler like the Sylas, what you'll typically do is do a full clear on one side of your map, which is he's done on the red side, right? Then he gets to base, do an early buy, and then come back out on the map with all 3 levels, much healthier. And normally that puts you a little bit behind, but because of that early gank, Kedril is actually in a much better position now, and he's been able to secure the bot Scuttlecrab and even make his way down bot to set up for a potential gank.
Jessica takes a bit of damage. Mystique's jumping in, flashing forward. Warlock has to flash away. Kedril on the chase at land. The abscond onto Vander. Inspired joining the fray as well, as Mystique has already burned his flash. Has the heal still. EQ doesn't quite connect. And because of that, Rogue will back away.
So here we see what Kedril is able to use with the extra time that he had. Sets up a pretty effective gank towards bot, trying to put this Sona Taric behind as much as they can early. Sona now losing her flash means that XL could look for another repeat gank a little bit later on. So like the answer there from Kedril, playing towards the bot side of the map.
This is the counter pick for XL in draft, and Expect is showing us exactly how much damage that Irelia can do in the top lane. Forcing Prophet to base, and having the wave actually in a very difficult position here for Prophet as well.
Yeah, so we didn't really talk much about the top matchup, but basically Nah hates anything that's mobile and it can do damage early. So he's able to, the Irelia is able to build stacks on the passive, and that just actually gives you a lot of extra damage early on into the game. So in the situation the Prophet finds himself in, where the wave is pushing towards Expect, it's very easy for the Irelia to dance in, and if you ever land a stun, that's going to be a lot of your HP chunked. So this now forces Prophet to TP, which gives XL an opportunity to set up a TP play potentially on the bot side of the map. So we've got to keep an eye on that. If Rogue ever try to make a gank happen, that TP is primed and ready from the side of Expect.
Talks about global pressure in ready check. Supporting can be very much, well, it can be a lot easier when you know you can have a man advantage at the moment's notice. Mystique's coming towards mid here on the target. Mystique takes a very bad trade there as Larson gets the damage down on that Akali. Kedril spotted out by this ward that Inspired walked in towards this red buff in place.
Love how Larson is utilizing the Shroud to just walk up and harass his opposition. Mystique is here, so he'll be forced to back away, and Mystique's just showing up to help Mickey push out so that he can probably look for a base. But a large part of this ties in with the fact that Mickey was forced to burn his flash early. He's never quite sure whether a jungler is there or not, so he can't look to go for these more aggressive trades. And now Larson is hitting level 6, so I'm keeping my eyes on Inspired. Where does he look to park? His Raptors have now just respawned, and they have full control over the top side of the map. This does mean they can potentially set up a dive onto Expect, but he's got a way pushing towards him, so that's unlikely. And with Larson resetting and picking up a couple items, I'm just looking at this mid lane. I want to see Rogue make a play onto Mickey.
And Inspired's always the guy you have to look for on Rogue. So powerful throughout the split for this team. You can see when he's playing Olaf, they are winning most of the game. 75% win rate when Olaf is picked for Rogue. Others not so good, but we'll see if he can have a strong impact on this Jarvan. Facing into Kadron, who is always that magic spark for XL. They're looking down towards this bottom lane. Teleport coming in, that's the advantage we talked about. The Aurelia can join this fight. Inspired force back. Vander and Woolite underneath the tower trying to survive. The Dazzle comes out, ignites down. Woolite just tanking it up. Mystique's gonna go down. He will fall for second blood, but first blood goes to XL. Now Rogue can try and turn this around. Mickey is in the bush waiting to see if he can join the fray. Larson stepping forward. Not gonna go any further for the moment as he is forced away by Mickey. Those missiles can do a lot of damage, and the Akali has to retreat. Still has the flash. Mickey doesn't have his as Larson tries to turn it around. Perfect execution available for Larson if he wants to go in, but Kadril's on the chase, and instead he's going to use it to get away. Mickey able to force the Akali back.
So, I love the play that we're seeing from XL. The execution was a little bit off, but that's only because Mystique did not have his flash available, but utilizing the teleport advantage to keep the Sona Taric down, allowing Jesper to try and secure more plates, get more gold into the Ash, start rotating this bot lane around the map to prevent the Sona Taric from ever coming off the board. But the reality is, they weren't able to pull off the execution perfectly. Nah was able to put a lot of farm back underneath the tower. He's now got a level advantage over Respect. And overall, the state of the map is not too bad for Rogue. So here we see Inspired, even though he's on the bot side of the map, doesn't have enough mana to really contest right now. His abilities are still on cooldown, but we can see that Mystique is tanking. It takes a little while for Cable and Expect to actually set up that dive, and they can't commit to the kill for Vander because now Larson is here. Now Inspired is ready and primed to try and support the rest of his team as well.
They're in time to try and help out. XL have about 1,000 gold lead at the moment. 500 of that is coming from the top lane, and because of it, they'll secure the Ocean Drake. The bottom lane pretty much even across the board, about 2,600 gold sitting, 4,600 on Woolite and Vander to about 3,500, 3,600 on the XL bot lane. So they are just that tiny, 4,600, just that tiny bit behind, but not too far in arrears at all. As we get toward the 9-minute mark, that strong gold lead for the side of XL could start to pay dividends, picking up those first parts of items, and the question becomes how effective they will be as they build up towards those first item spikes.
Notice now that Mickey, his flash is backed up. Inspired was not able to make a successful play happen because largely they had to answer the play that happened down towards the bot side of the map. Now that he's got the Hex Sprinkler, this 1v1 match will be a little bit easier for him. The risk of an all-in one-shot is significantly lower, so he's going to feel a little bit more comfortable, and now that he's got more points in his abilities, his wave flow is going to be stronger as well. His package has also been picked up. Will he look for a roam? He can continue to just keep attacking the bot lane. Woolite does have his flasher, but Vander does not. The Ash Arrow is available as well. So there are a lot of options right now for XL.
But the thing you always have to ask yourself if you're XL right now is, can we burst Sona or Taric before that Cosmic Radiance comes down? Because if we're looking for a tower dive into a Taric who's now level 6, into a Sona who's now level 6, it becomes a burst battle. If you try and fight a sustained war, it's not going to work. Mickey looking up towards the top lane instead, forcing Profit away. Back underneath his tower, feeding that gold onto Expect, getting the plates on towards the Aurelia.
This is also fine. They don't want to overcommit to bot. As Bradley said, they are level 6 now. Why take a gamble? Expect already had a wave, slowly pushing up towards top. And so XL decided to utilize that. Now they're actually setting up a play onto the Rift Code. Unlikely to contest to come out from Rogue, but you can see Larson pushing out mid on his way, and Inspired is right behind.
Larson has the flash, has the perfect execution. Cable coming in as well as Inspired turns around the corner, spots out the enemy jungler on that Rift Tower. Ward goes in, but immediately cleared away with that control. Really see what is happening from the Rogue perspective.
Expect gets to move down first. Mystique does have teleport as well, so this is the thing the Rogue have to be the most careful of. XL continue to have a TP advantage, so if Rogue overcommit, they're going to end up giving away a couple of members because they're just going to be at that numbers deficit. So good choice to just back away in this situation. Will allow XL to again get this numbers advantage. Like, this is one of the things where we always talk about how XL always look quite good in a lot of what they do, and then something happens and it all kind of falls apart. Like what we're seeing in the early game, let's see a gang mid.
Oh, the flash away from Mickey will survive. Inspired once again fail flashes the EQ.
Yep.
I thought for a second my eyes had deceived me, but Inspired not on point with the Jarvan in the same way that he usually is with Olaf.
it's funny because like we try really hard to emphasize that Inspired is like a really talented jungler, but given that he's such a young age, his first spin in the LEC, and then he tries to make a couple of these EQ flashes, and like this should not be a representation of what he's like.
You can be incredibly skilled at the game and fail that EQ, okay? I've seen it happen on international stages.
Have you met it?
XL pushing up in the top lane, looking to get all of those plates down. It's only the 12-minute mark as well, and the teleport used by Mystique to get down towards the bottom lane. We saw that in your picture-in-picture. But a 3,000 gold lead once again for XL. We talk about their strong early game. Here they have come out of the gate swinging.
Expect his Giga. He is so strong.
Technical term?
That is the professional technical term. Not only is his farm near flawless, but he has 1,700 gold over his lane. Right? Like, this Gnar has had little to no impact in this early game. And Irelia is already, like, she has the Tiamat, and she has the Phage, and she has completed moves. Like, I'm really scared of this Irelia right now. Like, XL now only just need to start moving this Irelia around the map. It's still too early. We're only 12 minutes into the game. So to sit there and ask them to be like, oh, stop rotating, like, stop forcing fight, it's too early. So instead, what they're going to be doing is they're just going to be setting up pressure. You'll notice that Expect has the TP coming up relatively soon. He's going to push the wave out, like we rotate down to mid so they can set up for the Infernal, the spawning map 35 seconds. And remember, they can guarantee the push bot because, again, they're still playing the Sona Taric. So XL utilizing that pressure very well right now. They're even going to use it to get a bit of deep vision towards the enemy jungle. Ashe is base, so they have to be mindful of that.
Inspired able to dodge away from the abscond. Mystique's coming in with his jungle in here to try and protect, but as you said, we're like, oh, teleport coming in here. Looks like Rogue want to take the fight. Mystique's will be the one to be caught out. It's a double TP, flash away from the TK. And he will live to fight another day. Infernal Dragon up in 6 seconds. Rogue unwilling to give this one up. Mickey's backing away, but he still has the teleport to join the fray if one does begin.
So I understand the idea, not sure that the execution was there. If they could have gone that flank onto XL, they could have found that pick and they could have guaranteed themselves Dragon. The advantage of TPing in is now they have 5 members first, so they get to brute force their way into the Dragon pit. But I think XL are willing to take this fight. This Irelia is very strong, level 10. Let's see how things play.
Rogue calling XL out to a fight. Prophet building up the Mega. Gnar stolen away by Cadril. The ammo lands. Prophet already into Mega though, and now we'll see with the Inferno down to 2,000 HP. Prophet going forward. Cosmic Radiance used, but he has to flash away. Gnar into the wall. 4-man stun. XL take the fight. They say Rogue, you can call us out, but we're coming out swinging. Expect jumping forward to wall like that's another in his back pocket, and Inspired and Larson are limping away. Expect lands the stun. A flawless duet. A double for him. And now Larson is caught underneath the turret. That's not where you want to be, my friend. Expect doesn't give a damn about minions being there. He's on the chase. The ace comes out for XL.
Beautiful fight from XL. We were talking so much about it and how strong XL knew they were. But all of the benefit has to go to Cadril. This man stealing away the Gnar ultimate, landing onto 4 people, was exactly what XL needed to find that fight, find that ace, find that tower, and extend their gold lead to 7,000.
It's 15 minutes into the game and they are 7k ahead. Let's have a look at what Cadril saw in this fight.
So keep your eyes on, well, I mean, you have to keep your eyes because it's him. So notice how they're being patient. They wait for the Taric ultimate to come down and they disengage. Yes, they're losing the dragon, but they know they can go for the fight. Flashes in, lands the 4-man ultimate, only stuns 2 people, but that's all they need because that quick execution onto what is effectively the front line of Rogue is no longer there, and XL can look to get the chase. Beautiful stuff from the side of XL. They're now sitting at a very healthy early game gold lead. And, you know, you look at this and you go, they're primed and ready to find themselves a big win here. This should be their game, but we have seen XL in this situation before.
7k ahead.
Against Fnatic, this is the same situation they found themselves in, and then they ended up losing. And it's because when they try to end the game, they often try to just group up and push. And you can't do that. You just, like, it's not effective, it's not efficient. So they need to split up the map. They need to be playing on their side lanes. They need to be utilizing the fact that Expect is so strong in order to siege onto these towers. And that's it. I like that ultimate from Mystique because they need to be moving towards these sides and playing towards the skirmisher.
And XL are playing around the vision control they've developed in this top side of the map as well. Control wards in here, both in the blue buff bush and it's this side bush. It's so easy for XL to pull Rogue around the map at their own whim.
So I want to keep drawing people's attention to the teleports. Jesper and Expect, they have them both available. None for Rogue. This means that if Rogue are out of position, if one member overextends, very easy for XL to force a play. Meanwhile, Expect, even if they don't force a play, it's so strong that no one can 1v1 it. 16 minutes, Tiamat and Trinity Force completed on a level 11 Aurelia. Who on the Rogue comp can really match him outside of maybe Larson? But even then, like, I don't know if he's strong enough to just straight up 1v1 Expect right now.
Expect is 3,000 gold ahead of Prophet right now, 2,000 gold ahead of Larson. Then those are the only people anywhere near him in terms of gold. It's so easy for XL just to continue to push forward, playing around the map as you wanted them to, Vedius. And although they're sitting at 1-9, this is not the sort of performance you'd expect from a 1-9 team. Maybe I'm being a little bit apprehensive as Crescendo comes in, but Vanguard's edge used as well, already misses the mark. Inspired jumping in with the Cataclysm Larson trying to get off the backline. He takes out Jester, and now Prophet goes in with the Mega Knight. The what? Oh, what a fight! Oh my goodness gracious me! Rogue has somehow turned it around. It's a quadra, and Nikki has to try and fashion a wall. Just about gets away, but XL grouped up and Rogue were there to meet them.
Rogue finds a beautiful fight onto XL, and Larson picks up a quadra kill. How does this happen? Medic, we were literally just talking about, they found themselves in this situation against Fnatic. But I'm sure they weren't just grouping mid. I'm sure no, they were just grouping mid. They ended up just getting collapsed upon with a beautiful ultimate from the likes of the Gnar, and admittedly, Larson was just clean up there. The whole play came from everyone else. Woolite got one shot right at the start of the fight, but a great inspired ultimate into a great Prophet ultimate that set up for Larson to be the damage dealer. This is what he needed to be in the mid game. He was the guy that would transition them into the late. And now, what was a 7k gold deficit is still a 5k gold deficit, but that is an Akali that literally went base and bought an item.
Yeah.
She now has
what Andrews right now. That's a scary situation for XL, because it looked for the start of that they were doing everything right. You know, they catch out Woolite, they kill him, they're like, okay, cool, we can back off and then we can siege the tower. But Rogue was so willing to take the fight, even in a 4v5.
And remember, the Rogue's comp ultimately is stronger in the straight up 5v5. If they just attack each other in a single lane, Rogue should win on paper, which is why we put so much emphasis on XL being able to play towards the side lanes. Tahm Kench, Ashe, and the comp from XL thrives when utilizing picks, when poking at your opposition, when not going for a full-on engage, instead just kind of playing the map, playing the 2 versus 2, just slowly chipping away your opposition. And so XL need to be careful, because if they keep getting baited into these fights, Rogue will find an avenue back into the game.
The thing is, XL are definitely still in the driver's seat of this game. You're still 6,000 gold or 5,000 gold ahead. You still have this incredibly strong Aurelia, but we have seen how willing Rogue are to take the fight, and so XL just need to be that little bit more cautious. As Expect goes down in the bottom lane, Prophet jumps away. Kadral was there to steal away the Gnar ultimate, but meanwhile the rest of XL are actually pushing mid. It's a 1-4 split as Kadral moves up to join his team. And XL, they knew that Larson was in the top lane. This is where it's so much easier for you to make these pushes when you know you don't have to be afraid of that Akali.
So good poke coming out from XL. Not enough wave clear from the Woolite Bandit duo. They're face shifting as part of the jungle, which does not belong to them. Oh, the Akali fight comes through.
Here we go. Rogue looking for the fight. Larson behind them all. Blast going up if XL want to take it, but they're looking for the chase. They go straight up to Larson. Oh, he dodges away from the arrow. Mickey's still going in. Rogue trying to chase, trying to catch up with their mid lane. They're seeing if they can help him out. Larson jumps back in the Cataclysm. Can they get there in time? The Crescendo comes out. Inspired's already down, but look at Larson in the fight. The Cosmic Radiance will keep him alive for the moment. Prophet trying to push forward. XL able to walk away wounded.
The biggest thing is that Prophet did not have his Mega Gnar available, so the follow-up was not there from the side of Rogue. Inspired gets a clutch ultimate once again, but this time XL is immediately can turn and execute him before the rest of Rogue can try and turn that one around. Akali did not have enough damage this time around to be able to execute the full health XL lineup, so they walk away with the kill. It will alleviate some of the pressure, but Rogue demonstrating that they're willing to fight, willing to challenge this XL squad that is so far ahead.
Very easy just to sit back and try and defend you and hit the towers. The Rogue unwilling to do that. Did burn the teleport on last and burn the flash on Woolite as well, so in the next fight, XL can work around those tools. They still have triple teleport on their side. They can put Expect down towards the bottom side and then try and pull Rogue up towards this Baron, which has now spawned.
I think doing a Baron this early would be very, very dangerous, but they can definitely set up, threaten towards it.
XL laugh in the face of danger.
I mean, they keep laughing, but Rogue is like, well, all right, you laugh, I'm gonna smash you in the face. And they've been able to do it once so far. That second fight did not quite go the way that they wanted, but now we're in for quite a close game. Because XL, even though they had all the momentum in their favor, they were controlling the map well, they were finding other game plays, the arrow misses. They're not able to find the pick. Prophet does have the TP. I'm looking for a wall that he can potentially flank to. We can see Silas walking over one now, but that will be cleared out. So flanks, no longer an option for Rogue. XL have full control over the Baron area, and this is a great opportunity for them to look for those picks that we talk so much about. While Jesper does not have the arrow, the threat of that Baron is very real. And this is how you force your opponents into making a mistake.
Prophet has had the time to clear out that bottom lane, push it in towards the tower, and then come up and join his team. If the fight did begin, he wouldn't have to use the TV. He could therefore expect he's now down towards the bottom lane. You can see XL say, okay, we'll respect the fact that you have a man advantage. We'll back away. We'll give you a little bit of time to clear out some of the vision we secured around the matchup. But in a couple of minutes, we will expect XL to go back towards that and get some vision of their own. And although it has been such a tough season for XL, we consistently see these signs of hope from them. We see these strong early games, and you know, here they're saying every journey has to start with a single set. Maybe this is the set for XL. Maybe 9-9 is the dream for this team from the UK. It'll be a very long road for them to get there, but you never know. We've seen stranger things happen on Summoner's Rift.
I'm just very happy that they punished what was effectively two losing lanes from the side of Rogue. The Prophet matchup in the top lane, Expect played that very well, and in the bot lane, the 2 versus 2, they really tried hard to shut down that Sonar attack, and they didn't just sit there and let it scale. So I love that we saw that from XL. They clearly had a game plan, they executed upon it well, and then we just see that one mistake in the mid lane, and like they are being forced back, but they're still getting towers. Like we need to reinforce. XL still in the driver's seat, 6,000 gold ahead. They've still had a great game overall, and this game is still theirs to lose. It's just that the longer the game goes on, the harder it potentially gets, because the Sonar is starting to scale up. She's getting levels under her belt. You can see that the Sheen is now done, along with a fully stacked Seraph's Embrace. The Akali is also only going to get stronger, and once she gets the Zhonya's, it's even easier for her to just stick into the middle of fights, be more obnoxious and harder to kill. And so that's why XL, I'm kind of like saying that the pressure's a little bit on, and that's why it goes in.
And Mystics goes out with the flash, has the unsealed spellbook, so can switch that across to a different summoner, but not having flash on the target edge can be very detrimental for a team. Larsen's going to face check straight up towards Expect here, who does just back away, gives a little bit of respect to the Akali, jump the wall, and escape. But now XL will use this opportunity to get themselves that vision control and out of that.
So notice how there was an option here to go for the Drake. I wondered if the Corki would look to solo it, but instead XL chose to prioritize control around the Baron. This could have been their 3rd Ocean Drake, and 3 of any Drake is always going to be useful. You can see the pings coming down now. They've set up a really good push bot, but now it's starting to slowly push back. I still think it is another option for them, because mid is cleared out and Expect has prior top. But I was surprised that they decided to put so much emphasis on making sure they had the Baron vision first, and now they're coming into this. While it is effectively in darkness, they've got the wave set up nicely. The risk of this being answered by Rogue is very small.
Very for Rogue to do anything about this. That's 12% of your missing mana and HP every 5 seconds for XL now. Of course, that still works while you do something like the Baron, so you can start it up pretty easily and know that you'll be regenerating through it, and Rogue will have to try and take the fight around that objective. Rogue happy just to wait this one out. Let's have a look at where they are in terms of items. Warlight's building up towards his Lich Bane. You've got a Black Cleaver.
I wonder if that's for the Grievous Wounds application.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Sonar's going to be really obnoxious.
And the Tarek.
Yeah, the Tarek as well. So I think that's why he's decided to go for it. Because typically we see things like the Proto Belt to get the early cooldown reduction. So a bit of a pivot there from him. And I think he's actually the only Grievous Wounds that we have.
Mystics could always grab an Ignite for himself with the unsealed spellbook if he wanted.
Potentially, yeah. But I think that was a smart pickup, you know, like, you know there's going to be a lot of healing, make sure you have that application in the fights.
do want to bring attention to the fact that Larsen's going towards his own Morellos instead of the Zhonya's next. So.
Well, often you also see like an early Oblivion Orb. Well, I say early, like it's the third item, right? But just sitting on an Oblivion Orb is also just really powerful, really potent. The extra flat magic pen is really good. Right, XL now starting off the Baron. The Rogue have no vision on this, so they're going to be forced to face check. They do have Sona Taric. Let's see how they pull it off.
Here we go. Rogue, last time they took a 5v5, they won the fight. XL back away. Cataclysm comes into Mystiques. They know he doesn't have the flash, but he's still got the thick skin. And Rogue looking to push forward. Larsen jumps in. Mystiques taking the Baron. Damage is going to fall to the Baron. And Larsen takes the kill. Crescendo coming out with the Cosmic Radiance as well as expect. Jumps onto the backline. He goes golden. Stops time for a second as Prophet's jumping forward. And now the top laners have to retreat back. GA propped on expect. The Gnar into the wall from Cadril. Stolen away. And Prophet's gone to his demise. Now Rogue fighting in a 4v4 with Inspired. Tries to jump on the backline. But Warlight's still there. Jessica takes down Inspired. And XL continue to set forward. They take the fight, they take the kills, and they will turn back and take the Baron.
And in the extended fight, XL do come out on top. Another beautiful steal coming out from Cadril to win that fight so heavily in the favor of the TP is going to come through from the side of Mickey, and they're going to be able to secure this Baron. Excellently played by XL. That team fight could have gone so wrong, and when we jump into the replay, I want to keep an eye on what Prophet is up to.
It was so close. Larsen's going to try and do what he can here to stop XL from taking the Baron, but I don't think he's going to be able to do too much versus 4 members of XL. The Abyssal Voyage actually coming in here from Mystiques. Looking for the Tongue Lash. Arrow won't connect onto Larsen, who's able to dodge away. And 27 minutes in the game, 10,000 gold lead now for XL. It's gone a little bit slower than they would have wanted it, but now you have to feel they'll be able to close out with this buff.
So, as we jump into the replay, notice how Prophet is going to try and come in from the flank to threaten the backline. But what's going to end up happening is this trio is going to completely avoid him, and that crowd control is going to disappear. So as we start the play, keep an eye on what Prophet is trying to do. His rage bar is pretty healthy. He's looking to set things up. Inspired goes onto the front line, but that initial crowd control is now wasted on the support. So initially it starts in the 4 versus 5. Prophet then dives onto the back line, and he's not able to land it onto anyone. So he then doesn't have that crowd control available. XL can look for the re-engage while the GA is just buying time. The steal comes in from Cadril. He lands a big ultimate onto 3. XL are able to walk away with the play, and because those big crowd control didn't land onto crucial targets, that is why XL were able to turn this fight in their favor.
And once again, it's Cadril who's stepping up for his team, landing another Gnar ultimate into the wall to just turn that fight entirely in XL's favor. We saw him do jumping in earlier on. Now he's done it once.
Tranquilos, Pandora es el 13º planeta más importante de nuestro dominio interglobal. Así que no gastemos mucho en vosotros, pero al menos...
Is ticking here for Rogue, and with 2 minutes left on the Baron, XL will feel in a very good spot. Look at the damage onto Warlight as well.
No estáis en Promicius.
For the moment, XL will get the next wave and while they do that, you'll see Expect down towards the bottom side, trying to do what he can, but when the rest of your team isn't pushing, it's quite hard to push by yourself down towards that bottom lane.
I would quite like to see Mickey actually go towards top, but I suppose given that he doesn't have TP, he doesn't want to run the risk. But it's just allowing Rogue to just go towards 5 right now, and Prophet is just kind of moving between the 2 lanes. XL need to split Rogue up just a little bit more, but in any case, at this point, I feel like XL shouldn't be too afraid going for a fight. 10k gold, 11k gold lead. It's kind of enough to kind of compensate for the difference. Even though one comp should be strong on 5v5, you know, gold can obviously rectify that. So there's the first inhibitor. They will secure that. Still a minute left on the Baron. They should look to rotate bot because they don't have the wave set up on top. And Cadril just going to keep this wave pushing in mid to keep a road split as much as possible.
There's not a huge amount of wave play on the side of Rogue at all. Mystiques here from the side. The arrow lands. Only onto Vander, but Cadril jumps at the back line with the crescendo. He's going to take out one, and now Inspired, who went into the back of XL, is just going to get shut down. Larsen doing quite a lot of work as Inspired actually survives. It was Jessler who fell. Mickey on the chase will get the double kill, and now Vander's chased up towards the top side of it. Prophet trying to do what he can against Expect, but he's just going to go down in the end. There's not really too much Rogue can do here. XL come up trumps in the fight. 16 kills to 7. They are now knocking on the door of the Nexus, and Rogue cannot answer at all. They've had a couple of slips along the way, but XL show they are still alive in the LEC.
It's going to be a difficult battle to try and secure a spot in playoffs, but we have seen miracles here in Europe before. And if XL can continue to play like that, then they stand a good chance of making that miracle run. Beautiful stuff from XL. They make it happen. They punish both the top lane and the bot lane extremely effectively. And Cadril in these team fights was fantastic. His use of the Gnar ultimates, the stealing of the Sona ultimates. He demonstrated the power of Sylas in these team fights. Even after the nerfs, clearly showing that this champion does have value, can have impact.
Yeah, he did an incredibly good job for XL. Rogue, on the other hand, will be really dismayed with how the second half of the split has gone for them so far. Last week, they lost against the new Misfits lineup. Today, they lost against XL. Is this the start of their ball rolling away, rolling down the hill, and collapsing in the second half of the split? Because a lot of people were talking about them as a playoff hopeful. Today did not look like that.
Yeah, and we also saw once again that when Inspired doesn't have his Olaf, the impact in the early game that he has just isn't felt. We did see him set up one very early play onto mid lane, but outside of that, he wasn't able to do a lot really. And like a part of it was down to the draft. I think going for a very early Sona Taric gave XL a lot of options. They couldn't guarantee two strong solo laners, and Rogue were effectively punished. Expect had a fantastic laning phase. I think he played incredibly well, even though Mickey was put out at a deficit. We got to saw some great, I feel like XL overall played extremely well.
They definitely did. We're going to have another look at some of those ultimates from Cadril in the game because they were the deciding moments for XL. This was the first one. Prophet tried to jump in, but XL, it's just sublime to watch. It's like a symphony on Summoner's Rift.
I just love the patience that we saw from XL in so many of these fights. And while they definitely did make that mistake in the mid lane, when they were playing around these big objectives, they took their time. They were very slow, and I just love this response of the team. Not only to they saw it coming. Every single player saw it coming, and they were all able to avoid it. And mitigating that big crowd control bought them a lot of time to then regroup. And this is where we get to see, you see the steal. There's little that the opposition can do to answer. Rogue end up faltering.
Expect being so far ahead that he already had a GA as well, meaning that even if he dived into the backline and distracted Rogue, he was able to come back and fight through the rest of that fight lane. Did a great game for XL, ended with a 14,000 gold lead. Looked like it could have ended a lot sooner as well. Needs to clean up a few of those mistakes, but if they continue on this form, they will be eyeing that 6th place pretty hungrily, I think.
Well, we'll see if XL can do it. As we said, there is a long road ahead of them. This will be no easy task, but if we saw H2K, who were what, 1-8 last year, make that miracle run all the way into playoffs, it can be done.
It definitely can. I think this would be the miracle runs from 1-9 to 9-9 is probably where they're.
We've had some pretty amazing stories here in Europe, though, like the Rogue run that they made a couple of years ago, I think back in 2016, where if they won if they'd won one more game, they would have qualified for playoffs.
But they didn't.
They did not, but it was very, very close.
We've seen some great runs. We saw Unicorns of Love have a great run last year as well. I think it was in spring where they almost made it, but we don't tend to see them making it. You hear every story as they almost made it.
Only last split, like think of the position that they were in, and then they had that beautiful second half of the split where they completely turned it around, and then they were even able to get a 3rd place spot. But even then, at the end of the split, one bad game could have cost them so much. So
that's all it takes. With playoffs on the horizon, we want to know who your key player of that game was. You can go on over to @LoL Esports on Twitter with Expect Cadril and Mickey your options. If you don't give it to Cadril, you are trolling as much as Excoundrel was when he said he liked my fashion sense the most. We'll soon hear from Mystiques before Fnatic go up against the new Misfits gaming lineup. We'll see you guys after the break. Bandu and Warlock underneath the tower trying to survive. The Dazzle comes out, ignites down. Warlock just tanking it up. Mystique's gonna go down. He will fall for 2nd blood, but 1st blood goes to XL. He probably going forward. Cosmic Radiance used, but he has to flash away. Now into the wall. 4-man stun. Vanguard's edge used as well. Already misses the mark. Inspired jumping in with Cataclysm Lock and trying to get off the backfight. He takes out Jester. And now Prophet goes in with a Mega Knight. Oh, what a fight. Oh my goodness gracious me. GA propped on Expect. The Gnar into the wall from Cadril. Stolen away. And Prophet's gone to his demise. Now Rogue fighting in a 4v4 with Inspired, tries to jump on the right line, but Warlight's still there, Jessica takes down Inspired. XL come up trumps in the fight, 16 kills to 7. They are now knocking on the door of the Nexus, and Rogue cannot answer at all.
quick shot. He's Ender.
And this is answering questions in sneakers.
Meiner nicer.
Answering questions in sneakers.
And now it's time for questions. Questions?
If you could travel in time, when and where would you go?
Dinosaurs? I can see Triceratops.
I would go to space. I would go to Mars in like 40 years.
What if you go green?
I don't know. I like to live on the edge.
Welcome back everyone. Locke here and joining me right now is Misty. Congrats on your second victory.
Thank you.
You guys improved so much in the early game recently, but sometimes you don't quite manage to translate this into the rest of the game. So do you know why? Did you identify the mistakes yet?
I mean, at the beginning we're a brand new team, kind of, because we started to play this role since week 3, I believe. Yeah, and we also faced the best teams in the league. So like we're kind of new and we didn't know how to close up the games at the time. But I mean, we have improved, and I think, I mean, versus worse team, like we're ahead right now again, but we managed to close, but it wasn't like that. So in my opinion, at least.
I agree with you, and especially since the fact that you're quite new to the team, regardless of the results. How is the mood between you guys?
The mood is really good. Like even though our score is bad, right? We just came to a conclusion to just enjoy every day and like have a good time, enjoy sprints. Even if everything's going bad, like at least we are like, I mean, even though we are like, what score we are now?
2-9, yeah.
9, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, for every player it should be also important that like you have to leave a mark, right? So moving to the future, you will have secure jobs, for example.
I agree. Bad results, but still the playoff dream is still alive. So what aspects of the game are you guys working on right now to make this dream a reality?
To be honest, mostly to quit on the stupid mistakes. We do a lot of stupid mistakes on scrims, and then we say, oh, but on stage we wouldn't do that, right? So instead of like stop saying this, we should just start doing it. So this was our approach for this week, and just like removing those mistakes in the early game. And practice has been going good actually, and the mood is fine. I mean, everything's going fine. It doesn't matter. I mean, we can go playoffs, right? But
Playoff dream is alive, as I said, and I hope I'll get to have more interview with you guys. Thank you very much for this first one. And for the next game, let's send it over to the analysts.
Thank you, Law. What a game. The UK boys finally get another win on the table, and what a game it was.
Yeah, it certainly was. I was very impressed with how XL punished some of the weak laners that we had on the side of Rogue. I felt like they executed upon some of those fights beautifully. I would have liked to see them play a little bit more to their side lanes, use the Ashe, Tom Kench a little bit more, but how can I discredit them when they had mostly a very clear game?
Yeah, and one player in particular, Cadril, absolutely popped off, especially in those later fights when he was picking up the Gnar ultimate. Like, his play on that Sylas was just impeccable in the 5v5.
I saw that Baron fight where he got that almost 4-man Gnar.
Wow.
Oh, I was like, my boy Cadril, he's going. But it was good to see XL finally pick up a win, but we need to move on. We're looking towards Fnatic versus Misfits now. 914 brings a lot of changes. We talked about it throughout the day. But for Fnatic, even more so. If we look at their last team match.
Yeah, I would like to pull up the last comp that they did run back in week 5, because there's so many signature champions here for Fnatic that were actually not really touched, or potentially even power went up for on 914. Starting with the Aatrox in the top lane, even though he lost his revive, got a lot more sustain off of that World Ender, and it's just Wimbo's best champion, so he's definitely going to stay at home on that pick. But also, the Lee Sin, the Twist Fate, all these picks are still very much well and good for Fnatic.
And you look down towards Hillside with Rakan. Benny, you were talking a lot about a bot lane mismatch here.
I think that one of the biggest things is that when Hylissang gets his hands on this Rakan, not only is he one of the best Hylissang players, one of the best Rakan players that we have in the league, but it feels like that with so many ranged champions nerfed, this champion is only going to be stronger for him on the current patch. And we've seen throughout the split his ability to set up fights for his team and how he is a large part of how they make these early game plays. He is a big part of their engage tools, and I feel that he should only be stronger moving on to 9.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do Hylissang's job, by the way, because in a lot of these games, the only ways Fnatic actually start a fight is a Hylissang flank or maybe a Brock's like miracle kick. All the pressure is put on him to be able to find these impressive flanks, and the fact that he can do it so consistently and like play it correctly is just really impressive.
And to tie in with what you were saying about the bot lane mismatch, I think that when we kind of look at Misfits, when we talk a little bit more about them, that bot lane is one of their weakest aspects, whereas for Fnatic, it feels like that this has been one of their most consistent and strongest aspects of the entire split. Rekkles and Hylissang have been dominating bot lanes and have been a reliable source that you can always fall back on whenever Fnatic is in a dire situation.
Well, let's turn the page up to Misfits, because this is a tough test for their new lineup. I come from the European Masters. I've followed these guys over the course of the entire spring split of the European Masters, and now they're here on the top of the LEC stage, and they're going up against arguably one of the best teams in our current league. This is a big challenge.
It's really important for them, and a lot of people remember that Misfits ended last week on a high note, but it was by no means all sunshine and rainbows for this team. You know, they got beaten pretty handedly by Splice, and then in this game against Rogue, it was really not going their way for a long time, but the one constant for them in this match was Dan in the top lane. After getting an early kill, he then picks up a solo kill, and it's this Baron fight where he single-handedly 1v9s and carries Misfits to the win.
And it felt like that we got to see comfort come out from Misfits, because going into this game, it was very obvious that they were going through a 1-3-1 style. They kind of put their bot lane on something that can just hopefully survive and not get punished too hard, while entirely trying to enable both Leader and Dan. And while Leader continued to not have the performance that many fans hoped and expected of him coming onto the LEC stage, I feel like Dan surprised many people because he ended up carrying the weight. He ended up making a lot of the highlight plays that resulted in a very big win for Misfit.
I'm actually really looking forward to the Leader Nemesis matchup as well. Just from a psychological perspective, both European Masters pedigree. Maybe if Leader can attack Nemesis, where Fnatic like to play around, this could be an opportunity for him. He could maybe find that ability to shut down Fnatic. But enough talk. We have a special guest. He's back from an EDM festival. We've got our resident LEC grandpa. Over to you, Quickshot.
Oh my word, new kid on the block and already spitting fire. Thank you very much and welcome to Pride Weekend here in Berlin, Germany. I am Quickshot, joined by Frostgurren, and we're about to jump into Misfits taking on Fnatic. And what a difficult task for the Misfits squad, but they are currently 1 win, 1 loss. It's a better ratio than the previous iteration of this.
And it's kind of about figuring out what is the identity of this Misfits roster. And Trevor, you're old. You love old pop culture references.
2 people taking shots in 30 seconds. Okay, let's see where this goes.
I got one for you, though. So I think I figured out like a good analogy for Fnatic's identity. Do you watch the Power Rangers?
Of course I did.
Okay, because you're old.
Yes, Zordon as well as all the Red Rangers. What's their identity?
So Fnatic are a Megazord. When you have all of the pieces that are moving together, they are unstoppable. They are the primary protagonists. They walk through every single opponent. But if the cohesion's not there, if one foot is moving and one fist isn't, everything falls apart. So this kind of points out the strengths and weaknesses of Fnatic. When they're on form, when Bwipo and Hilly are moving together, being explosive, they look unstoppable. But as soon as one of those pieces isn't synced up, suddenly Fnatic can be exploited.
I have seen enough episodes of Power Rangers across the different versions, from the ninjas to the dinosaurs to the samurai, to know if you prevent those Zords from landing, you cannot get them together to form the Megazord. That's what Misfits have to do today. Can they channel their inner Ivan Ooze? This is only for the old people out there.
Everyone under 30.
Yes,
What?
Yeah, exactly. It's the first villain from the first Power Rangers movie. Literally, not a soul in Berlin has seen this film, and I genuinely am old. Let's get back on screen, though, because Picks and Pans is underway. Misfits have taken away Karma, Lee Sin, Rakan, no surprise, and they first pick the card.
Yeah, so a lot of these targeted champions that are so potent and powerful for Fnatic, you can go through the list. We know that Karma is important for them because it's a massive flex pick. Broxa on Lee Sin makes people want to play this champion, and Hilly's Rakan, I doubt we'll ever get to see him give it. Rakan is like the big support right now, so it's too powerful. But going back to Leader and Dan, this Akali still technically afflicts. I prefer it in the mid lane, and so I expect it to be Leader's champion, and I expect us to see a lot more Akali. I think the tune-ups that she got on 914 put her in a really good spot, and I hope this starts opening us up away from the Azir Corki matchup and more into these assassin versus assassin matchups.
Yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. I got very tired of Azir Corki over the last week or two, and already we've got the Aatrox and the Ezreal locked in. It is Bwipo's strongest champion. We've covered it in Ready Check, we've covered it in the pregame, and it's once again locked in.
And on 914, it kind of felt like it was a nerf because people are like, he loses the revive aspect of his ultimate. But the thing was, that was so conditional. How many times in a pro game did you actually see the revive of Aatrox being necessary versus actually just having something like the added healing benefit that happens all the time? So this is why it feels like a buff to Aatrox, because you're going to get a lot more use out of that, which is why I think Bwipo will continue to go to this champ.
I'm excited to see how it actually plays out in-game, though. We need to keep a close eye on how Bwipo is going to be playing these team fights along with the rest of Fnatic. And after the discussion around Akali potentially being Leader's champion, Irelia is now locked in, and we just want to call it that it is a flex, but we still should expect, most likely, that Irelia to go top.
Yeah, and this also now puts pressure on what this third pick is going to be. We saw the Alistar flash that goes very well into Sivir, or you could grab something like a Jarvan. So it kind of depends what Fnatic want to prioritize here, if they really want to screw over Neon on this Sivir pick.
Okay, a couple seconds left.
Yes.
Longer time hover, and it's going to be the Renekton. Remember, we are playing on patch 9.14, and Renekton will have the ability to pop through some of those shields.
Again, it's about trying to find the matchup that you want. Fnatic say, we will meet you toe-to-toe. We will take both Aatrox and Renekton. We can flex them to both mid and top lane, and we will make sure that we get the exact matchup that we want between Aurelia and Akali.
Which matchup do you want to see? And you can go from either perspective here, because there's going to be swip-swapping plenty until those last seconds.
I actually kind of feel that Fnatic will swap based on who has their cooldowns and where their item breakpoints are. So I don't actually expect them to lock into the lanes and to stay there, but to constantly be fluctuating. I know I'm most excited to see Renekton. I think he's very strong. Over in China in the LPL, they've been playing him a lot more into the mid lane position and playing him a lot earlier than the LEC has been to picking him up.
Now, the question I ask you as well is, what's your take on what Nemesis is going to do on either the Aatrox or the Renekton? This is a small departure from the type of champions that I expect or anticipate to see him playing.
I think it's... See, Fnatic are a team that play very well with their experience and their execution, and I think one of the things that Nemesis has slotted very well into is kind of the execution for reactionary team fights. So you think about his Corki, his Twisted Fate, how he's able to use those champions to roam, show up the right time, right moment. On Renekton or Aatrox, a little bit harder to do that. I expect him to be on the Renekton. So I'm mostly just looking at his execution in his 1v1 and his 2v2 skirmishes, but still to be that big impact player when it comes to, are we fighting over the dragon, are we setting up a gank on mid lane?
Okay, I want to see then as for timing, when he leaves the lane, how he pushes the lane. When you don't have that Valkyrie or the Destiny Gate option, you may be a lot more deliberate, plan much further out. What I am excited to see, Hylissang playing Pyke. I had thought for the longest time the best Pyke players were in G2. I was wrong. They belong to Hylissang. He is the best Pyke in my opinion, and I want to see what he can do to Misfits Gaming today.
I also like the fact that they put Reckless on Ezreal. Usually they like to team Hilly up with a roaming champion like his Rakan or his Pyke, and then they put Reckless on something like Karma. It's banned away in this instance, but the nice thing about Ezreal is he's a self-sufficient champion. He doesn't need Hilly to babysit him. Now, if Hilly does play aggressive in the lane, he can follow up. He applies a lot of damage early on because that's how his kit is loaded, but otherwise, he can sit back, he can farm, and Hilly can piece out to that mid lane with the Renekton or Aatrox in it.
Oh, very good. So that versatility and playing around other lanes, while we've come to expect it from Nemesis, the play style is now going to come from Hilly, and we know he's good at it.
Which is why I like the response from Misfits to say, okay, Hilly, if you leave Reckless, if you try to camp this mid lane and get it going Fnatic style, we've got the Nautilus. We have some hard engage options that can try to force something or follow and also be explosive in teams.
Oh, I really like that. The option to potentially tower dive and a last-second pivot here. Once again, leaning into this Fnatic playstyle of playing around other lanes, multiple lanes, you know, moving all of your resources with the Twisted Fate, for example. Now a Karthus ultimate from the jungle. What is this going to do? It's a very different style of team composition than I was anticipating for today.
I mean, this is actually the G2 composition. You've got a Pyke running around and you have a Karthus on top of it. Think that once we're past lane phase, if Pyke finds anyone out of position, it's very easy to execute them in tandem with the Karthus ultimate. But you have to get to that point, and that's always the big thing about Karthus. Can you protect him long enough where he can actually make use post-level 6?
Can you protect this Karthus against Irelia, Xin, Akali? If they are able to start, you know, invading and start challenging the jungle, it's going to be a difficult task, obviously. But what are we anticipating for the opening minutes, and where do you think pressure can come from?
Obviously, all of our eyes are going to be on someone like Kirei because he is on such an aggressive dueling jungler like the Xin Zhao. And now that he's been given this time and this space, what is he going to do with it? That said, we know that Fnatic always have plans for levels 1 through 2. How do they make use of how they start on the map, where they're setting up, and trying to either split the map or protect Broxa on this Karthus?
And what I really love, this game started with a Power Rangers Megazord analogy, and the composition that Fnatic have put together is literally that. They need to get the Zords onto the Rift, they need to level up and get their items, and then they want to start coming together and putting down the damage from this Renekton, Aatrox, Hylissang, which can be backed up by Karthus or Ezreal anywhere on the map. It is Misfits Gaming taking on Fnatic. And welcome back! It is Misfits taking on Fnatic. And I'm very, very, very excited to see these team compositions and how they are going to play out. I did not have in mind the likes of the Karthus and the Xin. And I was always excited to see Pyke, so I want to see how it's going to work out. And one of the things that I obviously want to talk about is the fact that this is a trial by fire for Misfits Gaming. The European Masters Champions, their third game with this composition, these 5 players on the LEC stage, and they're coming up against the most storied, most successful European organization that we've ever had. So what a test. And they've definitely picked a team composition to say, wait, we're going to bring the fight to you.
Yeah, there's no expectations on Misfits, which then could theoretically unlock them to play to their limit, to their ceiling. Again, I'm just excited that they're playing their style. And one of the unique flavors that they bring is that they feel like a team much more likely to play through their top lane, or at least give their top laner more time of day. Again, so much of this top lane meta has been the Kennons, the Nars, the Victors, and it's about pushing waves back and forth, the Nikos. But Dan comes out with like the Aurelia and the Jaxes. So these are top lane champions that usually demand more attention, which is why I'm glad to see Kirei starting on the red buff, not only because he can look for level 2 ganks if he really wants to, but he's pathing so he can get a clear gank towards top side.
Okay, so we'll judge his next few minutes.
Or mid lane since Dan's there.
We'll see whether or not Kirei wants to go early or not. But you mentioned Dan's in the mid lane with this Irelia, and it's what you anticipated in draft, that both teams really could flex their respective solo lane champions to face what they believe is going to be the preferential battle. The other thing I want to bring up is my eyes are going to be on Broxah. He's on this scaling jungler, something that needs a little bit of time, needs to build up. We've got a little bit of stats just to show you that when Fnatic have a lead or a deficit at 15 minutes, just the difference in jungle proximity difference, the amount of time he's able to spend around his lanes versus the gold difference, there's significant differences when Broxah is being able to either be tracked or shut down, or opponent junglers have been able to get in Fnatic's lane's face.
And Broxah is kind of one of the defining factors of Fnatic's playstyle, not necessarily on something like Karthus, but again, if you think about his Lee Sin, his Sejuani, these types of picks, and I believe Vedius said it best, he's kind of like, out of our 3 junglers, I'll hold it.
Ooh.
Out of our 3 junglers, Xerxes, Jankos, and Broxah is like our top 3. If Jankos is the mixture of Broxah and Xerxes, Xerxes the brain, Broxah is the brawn. His ability to force and have such a high level of execution is really what makes Fnatic very explosive. And then post-lane phase, you see Bwipo and Hilly really take that role over.
And one of the things I like about this draft that we've seen is we wondered if Fnatic were getting stuck in this playstyle rut. We'll finish this point in a moment because Kirei's coming.
Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of point out Kirei's pathing. So he went red, grabbed the Krug, so making sure that he can take down the camp with the most experience early on so he can get an early rotation or an early respawn of it, then grabbed his double buff, and then literally went hunting for Broxah. But actually really good wards from Fnatic early on that have since disappeared, where it was placed at the jungle entrance to make sure that Broxah knew he could just kind of power farm through his jungle and just try to find some safety there. So again, we asked, can they get the vision? Can they protect Broxah? So far, they've done so, but you can see that Kirei wants to go on the attack.
Yeah, he's trying to find a target, and also, like you mentioned, Frost, Fnatic's early game, especially the opening minutes, is always very well telegraphed. They have an understanding, they have a plan, and the plan this time was get Broxah some safety, get those wards down to prevent him being jumped on. Some early advantages for CS, pretty much across the board for the Misfits lanes, I think, to be expected. And now Broxah and Kirei, they're going toe-to-toe. Kirei's going to jump in, get the 3 talent strike, continues to chase forward. Broxah's got a small level advantage, and Nemesis is the first to get into range. The Skittles will get Kirei low, but not enough for a kill.
And that's good trade back. I'll hold it though. Broxah, yeah, he's just going to disengage. So what Broxah did is he walked down and he hit the Scryer's Bloom, and it didn't catch vision of Zen because Xin Zhao was actually walking over into the area. So Broxah thought that he had enough time that he could secure the scuttle there, but as soon as Xin Zhao shows up, again, Kirei knows that he's the stronger person in this position, especially with Hail of Blades.
Ooh, big pressure onto leader up in the top lane. The wave is pushing into him. The Chains are going to catch Dan, but Kirei is in range to support, so the 2v2 of this mid lane duo. That's a flash forward, not going to find the stun, but it will get a flash out of Broxah, so this could paint a gigantic target on Karthus' back over the coming minutes.
And again, how do they keep him safe? I actually think this is a little bit dangerous for Broxah to approach this wolf camp. It helps that Nemesis does have access to TP, but you can see Kirei was starting to skirt up into that jungle and thinking, okay, I know that Karthus doesn't have flash, I know if I find him, I can kill him, which is why Broxah placed that ward right behind the tower, just to catch if Xin Zhao was creeping up towards him.
Alright, manages to avoid the death this time round. But we saw there Bwipo, he teleported into the mid lane, and you can see that, Nemesis teleports into the mid lane, now Bwipo's heading top. So they started with a different mishmash. Now they're going to continue to put this pressure on. Mihiva and Neon shoving in this bottom lane. I'm looking for Hillisang on the map. He was just moving into the jungle once again, placing some wards around that banana bush, and as it stands, Misfits are using this sort of early game strength to their advantage, but it hasn't accrued any kills just yet, just a little bit of pressure on Fnatic.
Yeah, they're trying to find their windows to attack. Credit to Hilly right there. He's got an early sweeper. He walked up into the jungle after seeing that Misfits' bottom lane had disappeared to place vision, and he's already cleared out Brox's jungle.
We'll see whether or not this is going to help Fnatic out. The point I was trying to bring up just before some of the skirmishes is we've heard several pros talking about how Fnatic's playstyle has kind of been figured out and why Fnatic are struggling to win as convincingly as they were. One of the keys to their playstyle was grouping up, using several players to invade a lane, whether it was with the Twisted Fate, for example, or, you know, Shen in years gone by. Now we've got this Karthus and this Pyke, so from Brox and Hilly, they can still impact any of the lanes they wish. And I want to see how well or how cleanly they execute this playstyle of support, but from other players.
And of course, that's gated on the level. We talked about post level 6. It's very, again, G2-esque composition. It felt like G2 made this popular of having Karthus and Pyke. And you can see that they've teamed up, and their ability to find you at any point, anytime, and to kill you. This is a pretty standard back, though. I like the fact that they're bringing Hilly not just on his rotation to place down vision, but to try to help secure this scuttle. But again, anytime Kirei shows up, he fizzes out, they're forced to the fight because they know they're stronger.
Remember, Broxah has absolutely no flash. First blood is picked up by Kirei. Hiva was flashing forward. Now Nemesis, he fancies himself a shot. The Umbral Chains has bought some time, but Neon has arrived just in the nick. And first play to Misfits.
And this is actually a perfect example of like brain versus brawn, again, in terms of how you define Broxah. Broxah wants the play, he tries to force it, we're still forcing.
Ooh, Hillisang is going to get away for now, but Kirei's very, very low. Reckless, only level 5 military shots.
Refuse to let this crowd go. And this is like the Fnatic classic, and then when it works beautifully, but if it doesn't, it can really burn them, which is why if teams are facing Fnatic, bring early game firepower, bring hard CC, bring these big team fighting ultimates, because you know that they're going to try to do this. Again, he brings Hilly, he's going to make this rotation anyway, he wants to place the vision, but they're just trying to muscle their way into this river on a matchup that can be quite dangerous.
Frosk, I hear some excitement in your voice in terms of the decision-making that Misfits are putting into play here. They managed to get the first kill. They were aware that Broxah was flashless, and for the time being, they've got themselves an advantage. Hillisang unable to find the bone skewer means Neon easily walks away.
And I think some of the issues was also the missing flashes, but again, Misfits know that they're stronger. They're going to constantly be blitzing into this river. Finally, the crab goes down, third time's the charm right there. But this is playing out how it should. I don't think there's any surprises here, just how bold Fnatic are perhaps being and where they think their windows are. But I like the answer from Misfits.
The question I always have when I look at a game that's now approaching the 10-minute mark, where you've got this younger, rookie, much less experienced team, but they've got a composition that comes online earlier. How much of a lead do you want to see Misfits accrue, or what type of lead for this composition to give you confidence that they're not going to lose the game?
I mean, I think I'll always say like 10K would be nice, but don't think you get it.
Well, we'll have to see if he...
Interesting reaction.
And the rest of Misfits can. That was a very nice Spider-Man pull to the tower, so the Umbral Chains will not find another target. Nemesis keeps putting some damage down. Multiple stacks there from the Darkin Blade. And while all that's going on, we haven't looked too much at this Leader versus Bwipo fight. Bwipo's going to throw down the Dominus and continue to chase forward, but Leader easily escapes. His flash is still unavailable to him, and he's built himself up around 2 waves worth of CS lead, meaning Misfits 1k gold up.
I do like Bwipo's itemization here on the Renekton to go for the Kindle Gem, not just because the health and the CDR will be nice, but also has double Dorans. Sometimes in these matchups, you'll grab things like your Merc Treads or your Ninja Tabi, which are kind of your big breaking points, but because you're against both an Akali and Aurelia, if he commits to one boot or the other, then they just lane swap on him, and he's got the MR facing someone like Aurelia or the armor facing someone like the Akali. So I kind of like this as, it's not a super bizarre build, but this kind of pathway that he chose to give him some power in this lane.
Okay, so let's see what it ends up helping out. The rest of the items, Orphil's Warhammer picked up for Neon along with the BF Sword, Reckless, Sheen, Tiek, Nemesis, Kindle Gem, and that serrated Dirk. Fnatic, they're just still looking for their opportunities. I'm looking at Broxah, he's still a little behind in experience, but still doing very, very well on this Karthus, which does take time.
But we do need to point out where Fnatic have fallen behind, and a big thing is in the CS discrepancy in the bot lane. Because Hilly has been roaming around with Broxah a lot towards that mid lane tower, yeah, we knew that Reckless would be fine left alone on Ezreal. I'll hold it.
Oh, big fight in the mid lane. Nemesis is going to escape. The Requiem's not going to pick up a kill either. Dan didn't even need to use his flash, so that's Requiem and Nemesis flash for what was a 1v1 effectively.
Yeah, massive cooldowns lost there for Fnatic, and I like this from Hiva and Neon to immediately rotate to kind of pick up a lot of the pressure and get some of this free chip damage on the mid tower. It also forces... Oh, he flashed!
Oh, Hiva flashed over the wall! While that's going on, there's a fight in the top lane. Roxa, he's now flashed backwards. Hiva picks up the kill by throwing down the mines. Now Misfits are running away. The Rift Herald stays alive, and Fnatic, do they fancy a challenge? Hylissang's waiting in the wings. Support is coming from Nepsis. The True Shot Barrage is flying across the map, and here comes Whippo. Hiva will give his life. It ends up being 1-for-1 in favor, I think, of Misfits.
Yeah, Big Daddy Whippo had to come down from the top lane just to help Fnatic out with that one, but that's one of those situations where you're trying to force a little bit too hard if you're Fnatic. Misfits are like, you can't just get this for free, so good heads-up flash from Hiva. In the end, it is a 1-for-1.
Oh, man. The voice in my head is asking, what if Misfits win this game?
I don't get too excited, Trevor.
I know. I'm not going to say they will, but I'm saying, what if they do? XL just took down Rogue at 2-7. If Misfits at 3-7 pick it up, this playoff race gets a lot spicier. We are way far away from that now, but it is the voice speaking.
But one of those advantages that Misfits did have in the bot lane has now been shored up. Hiva and Neon went for that rotation into the mid lane, where they picked up the kill onto Broxa, which has now shored up for Reckless's CS.
All right, leader's chasing for the solo kill. Here comes Hiva as well. Hiva seems to be the catalyst for all kills, and it seems to be this Hex Flash that is setting it up time and time again. I think I misspoke earlier. I mentioned in the 1-for-1, Misfits came out ahead. I actually think it's better for Fnatic because Nemesis got the kill credit. This time around it was Hiva, but now the 3-man stack pressure on the top tower.
Yeah, and we're doubling down. That's Kirei walking around with the Rift Tail. There it is. Killy, can he cancel it?
All right, we're going to find out the bone skewer. No! The animation completed. Kirei, by the skin of his teeth, gets out Shelly. She's going to give a nice charged up boop into the top lane tower. Leader's going to get that gold. While that's happening, Neon is pushing in the mid lane. All right, teleport is now being channeled. Bottom lane is being pressured as Fnatic are diving down and the tower still stands.
No Requiem, however, so if Hilly and Whippo try to force this, they don't have Broxa also backing them up. Now, the thing that I want to point out that was huge for Misfits is that majority of all of those resources went to Leader's back pocket there. So once he makes this back, he's probably going to feel very confident on this Akali.
Oh, man, such a good position. The gold
Look at that gold difference.
Is now climbing up to 2,000. So Akali versus Renekton, 1,200 gold difference. Looking in the jungle, 200 advantage for Kirei. And as you mentioned earlier, Frost, Reckless with his play, he's actually marginally ahead of Neon. Now, where is this teleport coming in? Directly into the top lane. Leader looks for a fight. Hylissang, beautiful skewer into stun. But Leader goes invisible for the time being, and he's about to ding Levin. He's got himself a tower to fight from. I got a little excited, but that was a nice setup from Hilly, unable to complete.
And unfortunately, Fnatic expend a lot of resources to try to make something happen in the top lane. They don't get any sort of flash. They just are able to walk away from it, and now possibly trying to force something mid.
All right, Neon's got no flash, remember. Requiem comes down, the spell shield blocks some of it, but you cannot deny death from below. The dredge line will hold Hilly in place. The tower will take him out. Hiva gets burned alive, though, as Dan, he's going to throw out the ultimate. Now chasing, finds the sun to Nemesis. Here comes Leader. He picked up the gunblade in the last fight. Whip was the first target, but he gets knocked into the air. Nemesis stays alive a few seconds longer. The life steal not enough to save his life. Reckless gets jumped on by Leader. He jumps forward, needs more damage. Flashes the Q. It's a double kill for Leader. And at the end of the fight, Fnatic come out on top.
Yes, but they're not going to be able to get anything because here comes the TP from Neon just in time. They're going to clear out the wave, and it's just the kill gold that goes back and forth.
Man, did Leader flash over the Mystic shot?
Yes.
I need to double check if that would have killed him. A very heads-up play. The Gunblade 3-1-0. The 1,500 kill. I got so wrapped up in the excitement, I missed it happening live.
And it only took 14 minutes to put it on the board. It's fine. Okay, taking another look at this team fight. There was a lot that happened, very explosive. I do want to give credit to Hiva. He does eventually go down into this team fight, but right place, right time, basically every single time. And it's been such a important member of a lot of the success that's been created here. Hilly doesn't quite connect, I think, on the ultimate, the last attempt for Nautilus here.
And of course, while we're in the replay, Hiva sets up yet another kill. Neon completes it though, 1, 1, and 2. This is going to give Misfits even more pressure in the mid lane. They're still only up 1,000 gold.
The hilarious thing, though, is that we've had, like, complete control back and forth over this bot lane river, but it's a Cloud Drake, and everyone's like, I don't want this. You can have it.
All right, next target. who's going to go. Heba has Hex Flash, so I'm just waiting for him to jump on another target. But we see that a lot. Teams really deprioritize that Drake if it's not an element that they believe is worthwhile.
It's about what do you choose to spend your pressure on. Misfits have the pressure because they have a numbers advantage over bot side, and again, it's trying to chip away damage at these structures. They'll take the Cloud if it's absolutely for free and there's kind of nothing else available, which is the situation that Misfits find themselves in right now.
Now let's see if Fnatic can interrupt it though, because Kira is instantly backing away. There was a number of Misfits wards that were placed in Fnatic jungle. We've crested 15 minutes. It's only that 1,000 gold lead. 7 kills to 5. No towers have fallen just yet. And just to give a little bit more like kudos to Reckless, he's at 1,500 kills just secured in this game. No other player is even close. The next is around 980 kills over the course of their career. And several pro players that aren't even active anymore, the likes of Expeke, for example, is still in the top 10 list, along with Froggen, for example. Guys that haven't played in EU in years. So very dominant performances from some of our legacy superstars.
Of course, we'll see if he can continue that dominant performance on this game, on the likes of the Ezreal.
Let's see if it can work. Fnatic's setting up for a potential kill here. Requiem is available.
So they're trying to exert their pressure over this Drake. Again, it doesn't feel so much that the Drake is important, just what the Drake represents, which is a potential team fight for Fnatic. If Karthus, of course, gets free access to this, then he can take it for free.
Well, let's see what he can do. Karthus will be backing up Nemesis now. Nemesis is going to clear out these waves. Here comes the Requiem. Dandan may be the target. Dandan's getting jumped on by Bwipo. HP's going low. By sides to slice the dice! And the kill! I think Bwipo is maybe anticipating a follow-up. Forces the flash with the help of Broxa. Gets another kill.
Just one of the brutal things about dealing with a Karthus. Should also be noted the TP discrepancy, the fact that Bwipo doesn't have his. So Fnatic also not pulling the trigger on forcing a fight or trying to contest a big cross-map play because they know that they don't have Bwipo available. So instead trying to focus around, okay, Bwipo, can you look for the all-in? The Requiem's for you. It's not for the 5v5. So I think that's smart.
I'm absolutely loving this game. Misfits, they lost that kill top. It looks like they may end up trading towers if Bwipo keeps the pressure top. But Frost, one of the questions I asked last week was, can you evaluate this rookie squad, this EU Masters, LFL team, and say, did they perform better than what the former players did? And when you see the fight they're putting up with this bold composition, you have to give some credit to the rookie.
That is a loaded question, Trevor.
Of course it is, but it's one of the ones that once the season's over, we're going to look back and we are going to start discussing, did these 5 play better than the previous 5? Well, there's like 3 or 4 different variations.
As you watch Dan die.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2v1, right? That's not a fair fight. But nevertheless, it is one of those things that's just in my mind, and like we're never going to find an answer. Perspective and opinions are going to be what decides at the end of the day. But I asked 10 minutes ago, Frost, what leads does Misfits need to have with this composition to feel confident? They've only sat
I
at 1,000 gold lead.
jokingly said 10k.
I know.
It was a complete joke.
But the main point is, they haven't extended it more. They haven't been able to push that lead further. The towers, they're not even just yet, but that top tower's very low if Fnatic decide to push it. Instead, it's Misfits that are focusing top.
Yeah, constantly playing and exerting their pressure on the map. I like the fact that they're playing around their solo laners and they're basically just using Neon as a hoover to either stall out the mid lane push or pick up free farm, but Hiva and Kire are doing an excellent job teaming up and exerting their numbers advantage. Picking, it was bot, now it's top, picking up free towers. Neon's just like, I'm chilling here, it's fine.
I love that. As a hoover in the middle lane.
He's just a vacuum.
Such a British.
Sivir's like the Roomba of League of Legends.
The Roomba of League of Legends. Just a bot, basically. All right, Bwipo's going to be the next target. Hiva's got his flash available. There's Leader going in and out, and this looks to be a pretty clean dive thus far. Stopwatch is used to buy some time, and eventually the kill will be donated to Leader. What is Fnatic doing elsewhere? They're just roaming to protect the tower.
Fnatic are surprised that they're there. Bwipo's surprised that they're there. He thought that Misfits had pieced out, that they had left, but they cleverly went around the vision, saw that Bwipo walk back to the tower and said, we can kill him, right?
Oh, and they did indeed. Very nicely done, very well juggled, at least as far as the aggro was concerned. And Leader quietly growing in power. 4-1 and 0 as the Roomba is now being jumped on. Hylissang's not done yet. He's looking for a death from below. There's the death. It's from below. Hylissang gets the kill. Kire will be able to pick at least one back. The wind becomes lightning, and now Reckless. He used the True Shot barrage earlier, so Hiva will be able to escape with his life yet again. A 1-for-1 trade.
I think it is important to point out, though, that it feels like Broxa on his Karthus isn't picking up a lot of these kills. He's sitting on 5 assists right now. Think of how different this game is if it's the Karthus that's picking up kills or able to use the ultimate as kind of the final execution.
What do you think of the late game? We're getting to 2-3 items now. Do you heavily prefer Fnatic's composition, or What's your perspective?
I feel like this will always come down to execution because there's so many different options of how teams can play it out. Both these compositions are quite flexible in what they want to do, and both of them have access to scaling potential, so I don't think this is clear-cut either way.
Okay, well, let's see what Kira and Leader can do. They pick the first fight with Nemesis. Defensive flash from Kira, trying to get out to safety. Does so. Nemesis does go down in the back. Now Leader's looking for Broxer. No Requiem available. Flash forward from Leader. Broxer goes down. Leader turns his attention to Whippo. Some snakeskin shoes are on the menu for Misfits. It's Neon the Roomba to get the kill. Now Reckless, he's disarmed. He's dashed on. He's stunned down. And he's in trouble. Neon's trying to chase. The ultimate will come up in just a few seconds if they can continue. The Baron is up. It's very early. Are they bold enough to try?
What's tastier, chasing Reckless and potentially waiting for cooldowns to get that kill, or immediately going to Baron? There's the TP. Baron's going to be the call. Can Hilly and Reckless hold this?
Leader has just teleported back in on full HP. He's got himself perfect execution available. Nemesis can come up with TP as well. Leader chases down Hilly. The teleport's coming in for Nemesis, but thanks to True Shot Barrage and that TP, Misfits back away. That voice in my head, ladies and gentlemen, continues to ask, what if Misfits do it? It's plays like these that is making it game volume.
And I know that Leader is going to get a lot of the attention here, so I do want to shout out some of the supporting cast here, because I think that there's an excellent CC chain that happens between Kiva and when Dan joins the fight. Dan's TP to the top side, Kiva is going to grab hold of Whippo, then the stun basically locks him in place, and Whippo doesn't get to play out this team fight.
No, absolutely not. And really good closure as well. And then on the back of the fight, I think it's really good and it's really exciting to see the level of cohesion in this Misfits. What they are very deliberate. They were working together in all of the skirmishes. They have strong game lost. And Leader is just popping people. But I mean, he's fed. You know, he's what, 7-101 now. Morello Nomicon completed. He's had the Gunblade for a while. And he can just execute these squishies on the Fnatic side.
Welcome to EU Masters, Fnatic.
And actually, this was something Scoundrel mentioned as well, is if this player could have had a shot. Now, interestingly, Leader actually did not lane against Nemesis. It was the Akali into Renekton matchup, so he was playing against Turbo most of the game. But now it's Fnatic. What are they going to do? They're going to find themselves Hiva. He's going to get shut down here, and once again, the Requiem doesn't really find an opportunity.
And I love the fact that Fnatic are able to force the play. So they're kind of in a sticky situation where, because Leader is so powerful right now, Misfits...
Oh, okay, Spell Shield came up. I actually did not see the death from below
damage. He doesn't have flash.
Yeah, Neon's just going to get blown up. He ran back into the chicken camp. While that's going on, though, there is tower pressure top.
So what I was saying is, because Leader is so strong right now, Misfits want to create pressure with Leader and force Fnatic to respond to him. So what Fnatic have to do is, before he hits the tower, they need to force a play, make a pick. And that's still difficult to do on their composition because their only true hard engage is someone like Hilly. So the fact that Fnatic even found it there is credit to Hilly.
Yeah, very nicely done. Both supports actually being very, very influential in setting up so many of these plays. I think somewhat when expected when you've got a Nautilus and a fight, respectively. But look, the towers were traded. Fnatic will get their first dragon. It is more valuable at this stage of the game. Mountain Drake now at 23.5 minutes. Gold is as even as it's going to be. Towers is even, and it's Fnatic that have the momentum on their side.
I want to say that because they also have access to the Mountain Dragon and it's a Karthus, if Misfits ever do lose vision control, there's always the potential play that Fnatic could get cheeky, use a Blast Cone over the wall with two members, the Renekton and the Karthus, and can actually burn down this Baron with Mountain really well. That said, it's really hard to do because Misfits, again, with Leader, can continue to exert so much pressure. He's a problem that Fnatic don't have an answer to unless they bring multiple members.
All right, Hellisang is trying to be a problem for Leader, and we mentioned the cheeky play. As it stands, it's Misfits being cheeky. True Shot Barrage will fly across multiple members. And oh my word, Nemesis loses 30% of his hit.
Look at Whippo, he's TPing behind them.
Leader is sitting. Now Leader's picking a fight with Hilly. Bone Skewer doesn't find a target. Baron is going very, very low. Nemesis puts on the world and he's trying to chase forward. Whippo's inside the pit. He's looking for Keyray. Gets knocked outside. Now Baron is secured by Misfits. The fight's on multiple fronts. Whippo's the first target. There will be some heal. There's the death from below. So far it's a 1-for-1. Not going to be enough just yet though, as at the end of the day, Hilly goes down.
But the damage has been done. Misfits get the Baron, and huge credit to Leader right there. He zoned away 3 members of Fnatic.
Could Misfits win this game? Berlin is stunned in silence as they get the kills in the Baron.
So they try to force the play. They look for the deep teleport from Whippo. They try to get behind them. Watch what Leader does. He not only chunks out Misfits, but he dashes back in, and no one can get past this guy. He's zoned away Broxo, Reckless, and Hilly. So Whippo goes in. He can't steal the Baron. Misfits gladly stop the Baron. They force Whippo out of it. They then take the Baron down, turn, and walk away from the fight.
Misfits are looking Fnatic in the eyes and saying, we do not care who you are. We do not care about your history. We're here to play our game and we're here to win. They've got themselves a very good position to push this forward. Look, it's still only a marginal gold lead, but it does feel like that for every step Misfits, 2 steps Misfits are taking forward. Fnatic only have 1 in reply. How do you want to see them use this Baron buff? They've got a Kali, Irelia. They've got the possibility to 1-2.
All you need to do is send Leader out into a side lane and have either Hiva and Kirei shadow underneath him. Just escort President Leader wherever he wants to go. He has 1v1 potential on basically everyone right now, and Fnatic would have to expend so many resources to kill it. Now, that said, Fnatic can do that. Hyper mobility between the Pike. They also have access to the Requiem, but that's all they need to do. Misfits just need to play 2 lanes at once and let Leader do the work.
Okay, I love that. President Leader, escort him.
And this is what I mean by the word shadow. I think that sometimes we use jargon words, but if Leader is Peter Pan, Kirei and Hiva are his 2 shadows, and they're just sitting underneath him, and it's just creating this safety net so that he gets complete access to whatever lane he wants.
Oh, Froskurin showing your age with a Peter Pan reference.
You said Power Rangers.
I know, but you made me say it. The difference is you opted into that one. I'm very proud of you, young lady. Well, let's take a look what's going to happen down this bottom lane, because Dan, does he want to pick a fight? Level 15 to 14, Titanic Hydra Triforce. By the way, the tower's gone down up top. Leader jumps back in, looks for Hylissang. He's going so low, he just pops him. That was a 2v3. Leader's not done yet. Goes goal with the hourglass. Kirei picks up the kill. Now Kirei's taking some tower shots. Will survive a few seconds longer. Gonna continue to escape. And down, he solo kills Wimbo. Misfits are doing it. They've caught themselves a dredge line. Over onto Reckless. Reckless chases forward. He kills Hiva in the process.
Oh, okay. So Fnatic managed to weather the storm, but they're still losing objectives across the map. Still losing a lot of the fights. Maybe a little overzealous from Misfits there, but still sitting comfortably in the lead.
Grab your friends, grab your family. The LEC summer split is not done yet. XL pick up a win against Rogue, and Misfits are inside Fnatic's base to potentially take down our second best team in Europe. Hylissang's going hunting and looking for some support from behind him. No one will get there in time, and for the first time, Misfits have a sizable advantage in the game against Fnatic.
Yeah, and now they get to go back and spend all of that gold. I remember I was like, you know, no one can deal with Leader, but potentially Fnatic will look at members like Broxa, like Hilly, like Blippo to take him down. It was all 3 of them that were standing there as Leader dove under the tower. I was like, not today here. So the plan was sound, but Leader is just a really big boy right now.
Absolutely. But it's really good just to see how they're using both the full kit. And also, like, commiserations to the observers. How are you meant to pick which lane to follow when people are dying in every single lane? Can I ask an all quick question, Frost? If I were to ask you to speak to the voice in my head that said, what if Misfits do it? What would you hypothetically say? Think about that while Hylissang's been jumped on. Requiem's going to come down. It's not dissuading Misfits yet. Leader continues to jump forward. Hylissang is taken down. Kirei gets the kill. Leader's found Nemesis, and now Wimbo's running for his life. He's got himself a GA. It's enough to dissuade Fnatic for now. Misfits rather.
And check out where Dan is. Wasn't even in the fight. He's just walking it up top lane. So you got 2 waves crashing in here for Misfits top and mid. Full control.
And that means Misfits, they're pushing into the base.
They just rotate.
30 seconds for Nemesis, 20 seconds for Hylissang, and now Froskurin. The voice in my head wants an answer. Misfits, they're gonna do it. What does it mean?
I don't know, Trevor. I don't want to make any definitive statements. That was a... Oh, okay, it was a Hex Flash. Whew. Hiva scared me for a second.
I know, he's actually scared me all game. I think it was only the 2nd or the 3rd time I saw him flash in for the engage that I noticed the Hex Flash. It's a lot to look at, but nevertheless, 2 inhibitors down, 29 minutes on the clock, and Misfits are on the verge of picking up another victory.
And this is just the fact that Misfits are the stronger team right now. They have more tools to engage, so they're just going to rock into all of these areas as long as Leader is also there and just dominate.
So let's turn the perspective now to Fnatic. We've talked a lot about how Misfits are proactive, they're looking forward. What did Fnatic do to slow this down? They've got supers to deal with. They need to somehow stop the Baron as well.
Unfortunately, because they've lost the ability to face a Kali onto a side lane in some sort of 1v1, and they don't have the Sivir, you have something like an Ezreal, they can't play side lane and try to create other pressure points because this happens and Nemesis falls down. And they don't have an AD carry that can wave clear fast enough. So Fnatic are in a very dire situation where their composition doesn't give them a lot of options in this current game state to actually dig themselves out of this hole.
No, absolutely. So difficult situation. You're then hoping Misfits overreach. You're hoping Misfits somehow feel overconfident in Leader 11, 2, and 5. This was the EU mid that was promised. Better late than never, one might say. But absolutely popping people left, right, and center. Now he's in a 1v4. Not even... What?
1v3. 1v3.
1v3. Come on, 1v2. Leader can do it again. Now he's looking for Reckless. Goes golden with the Hourglass. Kiva and Neon join the fight. Now it's 3v3. Boomerang blade tags Broxer. Flash forward from Neon. He sidesteps the Q. Another kill onto Puepo. It's the GA that's popped. Dan is the tower-killing man in the bottom lane. He hasn't been involved in a fight for about 10 minutes because he doesn't need to. He's going to take the third and final inhibitor tower unless Nemesis has something to say about it. A flawless duet stuns him up. Now, in a 5v2, Misfits are pushing into the Nexus towers. Nemesis comes in with a world ender, but his world might just be ending. Eva and the rest of the Misfits squad take him down. Reckless is the last man standing as the Nexus towers start to fall. Misfits do the unthinkable. Misfits surprise Europe, and Misfits take down Fnatic.
And what is the identity of this Misfit squad? They're the Giant Slayers.
Unbelievable. They did better than Ivan Ooze could against the Power Rangers Megazord. And you can see the look on Reckless's face. He never got a chance to scale up. This Misfits squad, the full 5-man LFL roster, is 2 wins and 1 loss on our stage.
Credit and congratulations to the entire Misfits roster. Do want to give a special shout out to Leader. I have a feeling that he's probably going to get player of the game. That scoreline was ridiculous. He was the beneficiary of a lot of support, though, set up from his team. Kiva, Kirei, always making sure that Leader was able to capitalize on a lot of these plays that they were setting up. And once the Sakali was unlocked, there wasn't a lot of options that Fnatic had.
The thing that I really like is the way in which the team played around the players with the lead, and also the playstyle. They committed to ganking those lanes early. They committed their flashes time and time again. And you can debate whether it was a good call or not, but the main thing is they were on the same page and they played to the playstyle. So all credit to Misfits, they earned this victory. But then you do have to question the Fnatic team composition. It was a little slower than maybe we're used to seeing, and there was opportunities for Misfits to punish them.
And you know, being between the likes of an Aurelia and an Aatrox and looking for something like the Karthus, if this is a best of 3, I think that's probably one of the first adaptations that would come out from Fnatic, is they wouldn't choose a jungler that would be that susceptible to someone like Kirei. Yeah, Kirei didn't necessarily, you know, blitz into Broxah and really disrupt a lot of what he was doing. I think he caught him out twice, but giving Kirei that advantage in that type of matchup and then letting Misfits get to a point where they could skirmish, I think that would be the quick fix that Fnatic could grab to say, no. Next time we face this Misfits roster, we're going to give Broxah some firepower, and we're going to make sure that the jungle doesn't get run like this.
I agree. We actually looked at some of the stats when Broxah is behind and the team is behind. It really makes a huge difference. I can see that Leader is currently getting set up with Law, so while they are setting up, we're just going to talk a little bit more about the state of the league. Fnatic now find themselves 8 wins and 3 losses. With the win that Misfits picked up, they are now 4 wins and 7 losses. They've actually overtaken Rogue. Rogue are 4-7 or 4-8, if I recall correctly. Key player of the game, by the way, Kirei, Leader, and Hiva.
We know who it is.
At LoL Esports. Yeah, we're pretty confident. But it does set us up for us for the last 3 weeks of the split, of the summer split, as well as tomorrow. Really, really important, because if the top 3 teams continue to drop games, or if anybody drops their surprise losses, all of a sudden your guaranteed spot in Athens is out the door. Like, we don't know who our top 6 are anymore.
I would love a Cinderella story here from Misfits. I still feel that they're more likely in like a blue shell position than they are in like a red shell position. That it's about, you know, they may not be the champions, but they could determine who the champions are, because you can't look past the squad.
Oh, I love it. She starts the game by calling me old and then goes to all these old game references. Thank you so much, Frosco. Law is standing by with Leader. Let's see what he has to say.
Thank you, guys, and thank you, Leader, for joining me. You guys just beat Fnatic. How does it feel?
Feels good, I guess. Now making playoffs is more real than before, so I'm quite happy about it.
I have some questions about the matchup you were in, Akali versus Renekton, because we saw Caps in this situation, and he died very early, and after that he just fell behind. In this situation, you were actually ahead. So what do you think about the matchup overall?
I think he just trolled the early game, because, I don't know, like, I played against a lot of Renektons now, and I think I kind of know how much damage this champion does, but early game, like level 1 to 3, Akali is really fine into Renekton, because he can't really trade back that much as long as you zone him away from the minions. And especially because they had the Karthus, they had no jungle gank pressure on me, so I could play like a monkey, basically. But like, as it gets more levels and levels, especially around like level 7, level 5, like these levels, it becomes quite hard because Renekton gets really tanky and he deals AoE damage in your Shroud, and yeah.
Okay, so if you fall behind in the early levels, your Renekton just snowballs and then you're doomed, basically.
Yeah, basically.
I have some questions about your champion pool because you mostly play assassins. I've been watching you in the LFL, obviously. If the meta shifts tomorrow and you have to play control mages or something else, will you be comfortable still?
I mean, as long as I play like 20 games straight of one champion, I will be comfortable on it, of course. But I think that happening is really unrealistic because assassins should be good into control mages, like traditionally even. So. And there's so many new champions and reworks happening already, so going back to like only Azir Victor meta is really, really unlikely, I think. So I won't have to worry about that.
All right, well, thank you for all these insights. Last question I have for you. 2 weeks ago, you were playing alongside experienced players, and you guys weren't doing that well. Now, a set of rookies just beat Fnatic. How important is synergy in this team?
I mean, like, we started off as a team with probably the worst synergy, probably in the world. But over time, we got along with each other more and more. And then we became comfortable with each other. So we became a good team together and we know how we think. So I don't need to talk as much and give out my thoughts as much as I needed to with the experienced players because I didn't play with them that much. And I don't think we didn't mesh together well as well with the veterans and the rookies because I think they had more of a traditional style of way of thinking, while I think the new players are like more open-minded about everything and willing to take risks, basically.
Well, I hope we can see you guys shine even more in the upcoming weeks. Thank you very much, Leader, for joining me. And we're gonna take a short break, and coming back, it's gonna be Splice versus Vitality. Stay tuned, guys.
Anytime Kirei shows up, he listens out. They're forcing the fight because they know they're stronger.
Remember, Broxah has absolutely no flash. First blood is picked up by Kirei. He's got himself perfect execution available. Nemesis can come up with TP as well. Leader chases down Hilly. Bumbo's inside the pit. He's looking for Kirei. He gets knocked outside. Now Baron is secured by Misfits. The fight's on multiple fronts. Bumbo's the first target. There will be some heal. There's the death from below. So far, it's a 1-for-1. Think about that while Hylissang's been jumped on. Requiem's going to come down. It's not dissuading Misfits yet. Leader continues to jump forward. Hylissang is taken down. Kirei gets the kill. Now he's in a 1v4. Not even... What?
1v3. 1v3.
Misfits do the unthinkable. Misfits surprise Europe. And Misfits take down Fnatic.
Nuestra historia comenzó cuando la corporación Hyperion decidió que ya no necesitaba a los cazadores de tesoros. Habían cumplido su propósito y con la cámara cerrada se habían convertido en una herida para la economía. ¿Por qué pagar dinero por las armas cuando pueden robarlas de un cadáver? Hyperion quería limpiar la herida, pero esos tipos eran como una asquerosa infección.
¿En qué quedamos? ¿Los cazadores de tesoros son una herida o una infección?
Sí. Los cazadores de tesoros estaban infectando el flujo y el aumento de dinero sucio y...
Esta metáfora apesta.
¡Silencio! La cuestión es que Hyperion tenía un plan. Los cazadores de tesoros podían ocuparse de todo tipo de bestias, bandidos y batallones, pero no esperaban al Interplanetary Ninja Assassin Claptrap. Ese Claptrap estaba programado para acabar con los chicos de manera indirecta. Trampas, veneno, propagar rumores maliciosos... Todo estaba a su alcance. Era listo, demasiado listo. Miró a su alrededor y no le gustó lo que vio. Claptrap subyugados, humillados, eliminados. Lo que para nosotros era programación, para él era esclavitud. Convenció al resto de Claptraps para que se volviesen contra sus amos. Y lo que empezó como una rebelión terminó siendo una revolución. Y adivina a quién llamó Hyperion para solucionarlo.
¿Baterías atómicas para potencia? ¿Turbinas para velocidad? ¿Para qué será esto?
Es como tener otro soldado. Eficacia ante todo.
Studio, you can see Splice having a huddle, but let's talk about that game. Fnatic Misfits, and the EU Masters inside of me, it's shining. I'm so ready to see Leader play like that. We knocked it out.
Yeah, like I don't want to
game. I don't want to talk about Misfits. I just want to talk about Leader. That guy was absolutely incredible in that game. Just getting fed on this Akali, but then you see what he does within individual fights on this. You know, in the 5v5s, in the 5v4s, in the 1v5s, this guy is still pulling it off, and it was so clean.
I'm still a bit of a cynic in that I sit there and I remember the 4
Get out of here! Get out of here!
So far this split, and I'm happy to see him win this game and do it at least one more time before I'm bought into the leader hype. Great performance from Misfits. Great start as we move into the second half of the split. Hopefully keep this consistency up before I get bought into the Misfits hype train.
I was actually watching that game and I was like, what is going on? Right, let's move on to the next game. It is going to be Vitality. After a terrible start to the split, ramping up, Splice are looking for, right, Vitality are looking for a big win up against Splice tonight.
Yes, they certainly are. And one of the things we were looking at is what was the situation that Vitality found themselves in to be not even in the playoffs, but near towards the bottom of the standings. And a large part of it was coming into the split, I felt like that they needed to adapt. They needed to shift in their play style. They haven't really been able to do. They spent a lot of time trying to play Cabashard. And their week 4 or last week, week 5's competition rather, we can see that in their games, they tried to still do this. Like Kiana in the top lane, Echo in the mid lane, and just like a safe, stable bot. This is very much a, let's try to play through top, let's try to play through Cabo, and this is a style that doesn't net them a lot of success here in the LEC.
Yeah, but we have seen, you know, then in other games, them focusing very early on in this game, much higher relative to Cabashard than it was to Attila. But we've seen in the last 2 weeks a little bit more of a shift overall in terms of where he's spending a lot of his time.
Yeah, and it helps when they draft towards that way as well, because we only have to look at that game immediately the next day when they played up against Origin, and they look to lock in both the Draven and the Fiddlesticks. A much easier lane to play around, a much stronger champion for Attila to actually get those advantages on. Meanwhile, the 2 solo lanes are safe, something that doesn't require a huge amount of jungle attention, but can still influence the rest of the map. And it was very impressive to see Vitality pull off a lot of these plays and find the setups in order to find a big win over Orange.
Do you think this is a confidence boost for them? Because this is a game that they want to win. They're now in that race for playoffs. They are at the bottom end of the table looking to sneak in towards that sort of middle table.
Yeah, I mean, nothing says confidence to me more than Attila getting the Draven and then pop-up performance on it. Having all the attention given towards his lane, that is definitely a big ego boost for him, especially as he and Jackal are on the rise after a couple bad weeks at the start of the split.
I think it also confirms that this playstyle can work for them, and they can look to leverage it more into this weekend. That's why I've taken a bit of a gamble today. I've predicted Vitality to get the upset win over Splice, because I believe that they've been aware of their issues, and they're going to come in today prepared against a very strong looking Splice.
So we chat about let's have a look at Splice now. I just watched LEC through spring and summer. Average. They're average, right? They're just that run-of-the-mill team. They're going to fill the pack in the middle of the table. They're actually bloody good, though. They're actually really bloody good, and they're a real top 2 contender. Why should I be excited about them?
I mean, they're sitting in 3rd place right now, so they're one of our top teams in the league. That's reason number 1. The second is Cersei in the jungle, I think, is a very intelligent jungler. The way he passed the early game, he's very good at picking his opponents and being in the right place at the right time. And yes, things can get a little slow in the mid game. They like to take their time a little bit, but this is one of our best team fighting teams around major objectives. They're very good in those situations.
I've been very impressed with how Splice have developed. They're a team that typically gets better throughout the split, but I feel like in the first half they've already showcased a lot of strong stuff. And as Ender was saying, I think the Humanoid and combo has been really influential in their success.
Right, let's move over and see if Vitality can crash Splice's game plan over 1 minute.
To see what level of performance Vitality will bring to the table today.
Alto, todas las armas al suelo. La Corporación Imperial no quiere dañarlas.
They can go toe-to-toe and they can make Splice work really hard today.
Yeah, and just to echo Betty, your safe money definitely on Splice here. They perform, they look excellent. But I think there's a situation that Vitality could create where making these matches setting up all of their pieces, that Vitality are a team much like G2 that cause a lot of chaos in the jungle. They like making picks, and that's one of the weaknesses that Splyce have. They take so long to develop that if you snap grab, you can punish this team.
And on the same token, this is a team like Vitality that like to make those snap grab moments. Let's see what the team compositions land on, because obviously the champions will have a very large impact in whether or not these teams can make those plays happen.
So I was jotting down a couple of bans that I thought might come out here, and I was like, Splyce 100% snap, lock away that Drave, and you cannot let Attila have that champion. So everything's going to plan here. I also love the fact that Vitality giving so much respect to Splyce by banning away the likes of the Kiana.
Preferred first couple of picks that you'd like to see these teams maybe prioritize based on their strengths?
I wanted to see Sylas get through because I love watching Xerxes on Sylas, so I'm actually really curious that Splyce decided to ban it from blue side, so they must have a very specific priority pick in mind, if that's something like an Akali or maybe an Azir if that's safer. Normally if you're like trying to play it safe, the blind pick here is Azir, but I would love a power pick. That's an interesting power pick.
Okay, and Xayah for Kobe, he's 3-0, undefeated on the champ.
So what's interesting here is that if you check North Garen, his most played champion is Rakan. Xayah, Rakan, we talk about it all the time. Jack Troll hasn't played it yet. And this is kind of one of the big exposed weaknesses for Vitality, is a champion that is so important and so powerful they haven't really gravitated towards. So this could just be Splyce throwing down the gauntlet and saying, we know for sure we're going to get the Xayah Rakan, and you can't separate this combo, which is why we have the priority pick on it.
And that seems to be the case. Kai'Sa, Nautilus locked in. And Frost, all this does to me is make me even more impressed with Splyce's preparation, research, understanding. They throw down the gauntlet knowing that the Xayah Rakan could get taken away, and you assume they will have an answer if it does. It doesn't, they get Xayah Rakan as the combo and the Azir, which is what you were talking about just a few moments ago.
And this just tells me that Splyce have a perfect read on what Vitality was going to do. They left it open, they said, we're gonna gut check you, we know that you don't play this champion, and they got exactly what they wanted. It wasn't the Azir priority pick, but they get a very strong blind pick that gives them so much power in a 2v2 mid-jungle situation with push priority, and then they get a phenomenal bot lane in Xayah Rakan. So far, it seems that everything's gone Splyce's way.
And the way that this draft is already playing out, do you know the voice in my head is very loud today, Frost. It makes me think that Vitality are going to be in a very difficult situation. If Splyce are already in their heads as far as the draft is concerned, I want to see how these last two picks play out in phase 2. I then want to see what the decision-making is. If Splyce have been able to download Vitality's tendencies and decision-making trees, well, maybe they're not going to get caught out in the setup.
I mean, it feels like they've got a read on them. The fact that they're banning away the Kled, if any top laner would have the Kled prepared, I was definitely looking to see Cabochard's Kled performance here. You have the opportunity where you can continue to pinch on the top lane pool, maybe ban away the Nico or the Kennen, but if you leave them both open, then you know you're guaranteed at least one.
Yeah, exactly, and that means the Evelynn will be the final ban, and this is going to leave the questions, what else will we see in the top lane?
Interesting of the Eve ban, so they're assuming that Mowgli wants to go for an AP-oriented jungler. Your other AP junglers left open are still the likes of things like Elise and Gragas. Gragas has been the thing that Mowgli has gone to, so it could also be the assumption from Splyce that Cabo is going to take an AD, but they say nope, Jarvan. Technically still a flex.
Yeah, technically still a flex. We could see that going top, something Cabo has done many times in the past, and well, he hasn't done it this split. We've got a few seconds left now on this phase 2 pick phase here for Splyce, who by the way are also wearing their Pride jerseys. You can see them on board right now. It's Pride Month here in Germany. It's Christopher Street Day tomorrow in Berlin. It's going to be an insane parade and celebration. And the next pick is going to be Kennen, fairly safe up in that top lane.
And it's also one of the Chachi special champions. When I think about Chachi and Odo, I always got to think about the Kennen. So glad to see him pull that. And wow, Olaf got so far through this draft phase.
Now, why are you surprised by that? Huge priority pick? You would have expected it sooner?
It's also something that Mowgli loves. So I find it interesting that he picked something like a Jarvan. Mowgli seems to love blitzing into enemy junglers and kind of 1v1ing them, and Olaf's excellent at doing that. By prioritizing the Jarvan, you're getting a bit more teamfight utility. And oh, it's Jarvan top.
Oh,
there we go. That's the Mowgli I know and love.
There we go. We anticipated it could have been a flex. We know it is in Cabochard's wheelhouse, and now we see the pivot. That is a lot of damage dealers on the Vitality side.
And I forget who it was. I think it was Wonder that did the J4 into the Kennen and spec'd for the Comet, I believe it was, or maybe it was Airy, and he basically used the flag to play the poke game or the long range game with the Kennen. So we'll keep our eyes on what Cabochard prioritizes in this matchup when he specs into.
Okay, so what do you anticipate then from how these team compositions are going to be played out?
I mean, it's a pretty big team fight composition from Splice. I assume it's going to be an AP cannon, but again, we'll keep our eyes on this one. Whereas on the other side, I actually think there's a lot of skirmish potential and much more like early game, not necessarily early game focus. I take that back from Vitality.
Skirmish focus I like though. Like when you think of the synergies in the 2v2s and the 3v3s, there are so many options you can do in this Vitality side.
It's about when these teams clump up. If Splice can just sit still with
nuestra
their
pequeña
team,
banda de invasores de la
compañía is
compañía.
located in one area, especially when you have a cannon. Whereas if it's a big 5v5 team fight, Vitality really excel when the team fight gets split up. When it's kind of 2 members on one side, 3 members on another side, you start making these 1v1. So chaotic, explosive, moving team fights are really key for Vitality.
What I really like is we're jumping into the game and both compositions reflect the team's preferred playstyles. Let's take a look who's going to come out on top. Vitality and Splice. Just before we start the video, there is a very brief pause, hence the overly dramatic music, continuing to be overly dramatic. But what I do want to ask, Frost, just before we went into draft, you did begin highlighting the differences in these two teams' play styles. Just a refresher for everybody who's watching, Splice, when they do tend to take their time setting up a play, setting up for something on the map, they do sometimes get caught out, and that can be what thwarts some of their mid to late game decisions, some of their mid to late game plays. Vitality has got a team composition that looks good in skirmishes. So the question I'm going to ask you, Frost, is do you think Vitality today with this comp can disrupt the current second best team in RE?
I mean, they definitely have the champions to cause that chaos. I was pinging into production because I was very curious what the problem was. When they loaded up into the game, I saw that Jarvan had Glacial Augment, to which then I was like, uh-oh. Depending on what caused that, that could be a big problem here. And then I like quickly went to pro builds. I'm like, Glacial Augment, that sounds a bit unique here.
Yes, it really is. What I can confirm, the production team and league officials are currently investigating and claim that the incorrect room page wasn't loaded up. While they are investigating it, I'm going to go back to the question I asked. And just before we were on camera, I actually said to you, if both of these teams play average, both of these teams are not, you know, running it down mid and turbo into, do you think this Vitality, their playstyle preferences can beat?
Vitality on the best stage, or Splice on the best stage, like, think that it's possible? Absolutely. The problem is that you have this idea where we see this is maybe a bit. Let's say you give a team a score of 10, and let's say Splice has the capability to get to like an 8, and Vitality has the capability to get to it doesn't have to be these numbers,
hypothetical.
But the thing is, the Splice are more likely to hit that 8, that 7 every single time, whereas Vitality are more likely to hit a 5 or a 4. So even though they seriously have the potential, the consistency to actually reach that potential is one of the issues. And even that said, I actually don't know the answer if I truly believe that on their best day, in a best of 5, you make these teams play 100 times. If Vitality actually wins it, I would actually, again, put safe money on Splice. But the potential is there.
And in a best of 1, where you don't get
where anything
a
can
best
happen.
of 5, when you don't get a consistent number of games and results, maybe it is possible. Just to give you guys an update, we will be remaking the lobby. We don't have the official wording on exactly the nuances as to why. So while the players are busy dropping out of the game and starting to recreate, we are just going to talk a little bit more about what is at stake here. Just before I ask Frost the question, I used the statement that Splice were the best team. Now, the reason for that is if we look at their second best team, correction. If we look at their head-to-head over Fnatic, they're 1-0 up. Assuming that Splice end up winning this game, they'll be tied with Fnatic and currently own the head-to-head, meaning that if a tiebreaker scenario were to happen, they're jumping ahead right now. But obviously there are still rematches to go. And as it stands, Splice's consistency has looked very, very good over the last few weeks. And we just saw Fnatic lost to Misfits, so that's definitely coloring my opinion just a little.
And I also want to give credit to some of the key members that have made Splice really show up in the standings. We always say his name. Gonna say it. It's Xerxes. Xerxes is one of our best junglers in the league right now. Very unique style. I'm super excited. I haven't gotten to cast a Splice game in a really long time. I always like excitedly get to watch backstage where we just like giggle with the other color caster about Xerxes' pathing, kind of the decision making that he does. He is just like, if you are a jungler